Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented, excited, brilliant, clever, amusing, witty players who are going to show off their skill and dexterity with words, and those 4 are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and seated on my left, Alun Cochrane and Tony Hawks. Please welcome all 4 of them. As usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from Salford Quays, from the Lowry Centre. Here, a wonderful building commemorating that great artist. And we have some lovely Salford and Manchester people in the audience. And we'll start the show with Paul Merton. Paul! Oh, very intimate, the first one. My first kiss. Oh, Paul, tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Is that you, Margaret, in the audience, making that noise? Because it was Margaret who was my first kiss. No, I lie, actually. I think my first kiss would have been against the mirror. Like all pre-adolescent boys. You look at your reflection in the mirrored surface and you think to yourself, you're gorgeous. I am going to kiss myself. Of course, tongues are a complete waste of time because you end up just clearing the whole bathroom cabinet full of any grime. It looks absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, but it's not really romantic.
Kit, you've challenged.
We've had gorgeous twice, haven't we? I know he
yes.
is.
Yes.
Gorgeous, yes.
And I wouldn't disagree, but heavens above.
It's all right, all right.
It's
And right
okay.
at the beginning, we had mirror twice. Anyway, correct challenge. And there are 34 seconds still available. You take over the subject, Kit, having got a point for a correct challenge, and you start now.
My first kiss was their album Lick It Up, which came out in the late 70s. They were the most marvellous American rock band. They used to vomit blood on stage, which turned out to be a mixture of cochineal and yoghurt. So when it came to my first kiss, she was a little bit surprised when I vomited all over her. She was called Tina. She had lovely golden hair and a long tongue for a retriever dog. And...
That was quite
getting
a
too
scene,
revolting,
really.
wasn't it? I'm sorry.
Tony, you've challenged.
I think he hesitated, as he probably did before the kiss. Was there a hesitation?
No, there was a hesitation, yes. Yeah. So you got in with a correct challenge. A point to you, Tony, and there are 6 seconds still available. Tell me something about my first kiss, starting now.
My first kiss was in Manchester because I went to university here. It took me a long time to get my act together, but...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Tony Hawks, and you won't be surprised to know that he's in the lead at the end of the first round. Alun Cochrane, we'd like you to begin the second round. Matchsticks. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Matchsticks have a connection to L.S. Lowry, a local artist and hero, I believe, but also matchsticks can be an excellent gift for an unloved stepchild. And matchsticks can assist you on a long drive from falling asleep. Simply open your eyes as wide as you can and then use the matchsticks to set fire to your feet, and you're unlikely to nod off at the wheel. Matchsticks can also be used to make erections. Whilst in prison, you can make a leaning tower of pizza or an Eiffel. And I think some of this audience have a particularly low opinion of where I'm going with the matchsticks round. Matchsticks are an X. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. They enjoyed that, Alun, and you haven't played the game as much as the others, but you did go for 40 seconds. Great. But Paul was the first to challenge. What was it, Paul?
It was hesitation, sadly.
Definitely, yes. And you've got 20 seconds left, of course. Tell us something about matchsticks in this game, starting now.
Matchsticks, they say on every box, keep away from children, but I think that's a radical approach to education. Matchbox.
Kit, you challenged.
Well, he hesitated for dramatic effect, but it was a hesitation.
I think we interpret that as hesitation.
Absolutely.
So, Kit, you've got the subject. You've got 12 seconds, and it's Matchsticks starting now.
L.S. Lowry, as you said, painted matchsticks, but no lacrosse or polo sticks, I noticed in this...
Tony, so we're going to hear from all of you on this subject.
Yes, there was a little hesitation
There
there.
was, and I agree with you, and you've got 5 seconds. Matchsticks starting now.
Matchsticks you can only use to make fire if you have the box with you, which was something Alun...
Poor challenge.
Well, no, that's clearly not true, because some matches, for example, can be struck on window panes.
Swan Vestas?
Yeah, Swan Vestas we start, yes.
Very good. Or the soles of your feet.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Technically speaking, Paul, you're correct.
Yes, that's why
I
I
had
challenged.
6 seconds to go. Why did I say something so controversial? I was a fool to myself.
So, 1 second, Paul. Matchsticks starting now.
Matchsticks!
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle Wayne gained that extra point. Is now equal with Tony Hawkes. And then comes Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Alun Cochrane. And Kit, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is sushi. Will you tell us something about sushi in just a minute, starting now?
Sushi is a Japanese food that is extraordinarily expensive, perhaps because it's so labour-intensive. It's like a maternity ward. It involves a lot of seaweed and tastes as though the sea did exactly that, all over your lunch. The main thing to do is to cover it up with condiments. They use pickled ginger, which is nothing to do with Chris Evans and the Forgotten Years, and wasabi, which is a horseradish so virulent and violent that it's used in smoke alarms for the hard of hearing to wake you up at night. You get a lot of sticky rice. It has to be the right sort. Basmati won't do, and you get this gloop. And, I'm interrupted. I said get twice. Can I interrupt myself?
Well, Kit, you've actually challenged, so I have to ask you, what was your challenge?
I repeated get. I'm so sorry. Repetition of
You're
get.
perfectly correct. You did repeat get. So I suppose the only thing I can do is give you a point for a correct challenge. And congratulate you on your quick hearing and listening and so
very
forth.
much,
Nicholas,
Bore the rest of the panel
you
to
may be
total
making a
coma.
rod for your back here.
19 seconds, you got in. Oh, gosh, you are clever, aren't you? And you've still got the same subject. Sushi, starting now.
Sushi bars are very trendy with Russian assassins and yuppie posers, though sadly not often at the same time. I'm sure there is lots in the new regenerated Salford, which is quite the most exciting place I've visited for a very long time. It's all shiny and very sushi out there, and with a whiff of the ocean about it coming in.
So Kit Hesketh-Harvey started with the subject, and he went for nearly 40 seconds and interrupted himself, got a point for that, and then he kept going to the end and gets bonus point for speaking as the whistle went.
What a neat trick.
So you're now in the lead, just one ahead of Tony and Paul.
Am I right in thinking, Nicholas, it's impossible to... That's the maximum score you can ever get in a round, because he's... normally you start, and then you speak, and then you get a bonus at the end. But he picked up an extra bonus by challenging himself.
No, he
in the
didn't.
middle.
Have we made just
that
a
wasn't a
minute,
bonus. That was a legitimate 1 point.
Okay.
A very shady way of doing it, and we're not going to encourage it.
Okay.
And please don't take it to heart, Tony. Right, Tony, we'd like you to begin the next round. 5 ways to get a good night's sleep. Of course, some merriment, but can you give us more merriment within the 60 seconds starting now?
Whenever people ask me if I slept well, I like to say, no, I made a few mistakes. And that is an amusing thing to do, I think you'll find. But there are 5 ways, or possibly more. But I've been asked only to speak about these.
Kit, challenge.
Sorry, I nodded off.
All right, what I like to do on those occasions is, because obviously it's got nothing to do with the rules of just a minute, and we'll give you a bonus point.
Oh, thank you, Nicky.
No, we enjoyed the interruption, the audience applauded, but you were interrupted, Tony, so you get a point for that, and you keep the subject. 46 seconds starting now.
You can, of course, go out and...
Wait a minute, Alun, challenge.
Sorry, I nodded off.
You're working on the assumption that I give bonus points is for people who say they nodded off, right? But I must be fair to Alan, because Kit got a round of applause. I gave him a bonus point, so Alan, I've got to give you a bonus point as well, haven't I? Right.
That was what I was hoping would happen.
Yes, I could tell that was on your mind.
I'm
right.
suffering a bit of a crisis of confidence.
I wouldn't worry, Tony, because every time you're interrupted, you get a point.
Right.
There's another point to you.
I've got a career after this.
And 45 seconds are still available. 5 ways to get a good night's sleep.
Go to a bar and then order 5 pints of the finest northwestern beer that you can get. I forget the name. Tetley's was probably one, but I mustn't advertise, so all the others are just as good. Drink them all and then go...
Alun, challenge.
Deviation, I think Tetley's is technically from Yorkshire.
I think you're technically correct.
Excellent.
So, Alun, you've got in with 35 seconds to go, and the subject is 5 ways to get a good night's sleep, starting now.
Of the 5 ways to get a good night's sleep, only 4 are broadcastable, so I will concentrate on those. The first that I enjoy is to actually stick my head between 2 pillows. Many people find this strange and would think it increases claustrophobia, but I find 2 massive cushioning devices...
Paul, you challenge.
Hesitation, sadly.
Yeah, it was just a hesitation. And you've got in with 16 seconds to go, starting now.
Well, the experts are very clear on the 5 ways of getting a good night's sleep. First of all, one must have a hot, milky drink, followed by a warm bath in some kind of liquid, preferably water, and then you must realise your dreams.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And if you're interested in the points, it's very equal now. Tony, Kit and Paul are equal in the lead, and Alan's in second place. Right, Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is the magic of radio. And, of course, this is a radio festival up here in Salford, Salford Quays, and we'd like you to talk on it, Paul. And there are 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
The magic of radio, as somebody said a long time ago, the scenery is better on radio, and certainly is an instrument of the imagination. If we are listening to an afternoon play, 3 o'clock, we can be taken to the middle of the Nairobi desert, or instead dancing amidst the water.
Tony, challenge.
There is no desert in Nairobi.
The Nairobi desert? They're not. No, that's town.
Are you thinking of the Gobi Desert?
Yes, so was I. That's the magic of radio. It doesn't matter where you are.
So, Tony, there are 45 seconds available. The magic of radio starting now.
For me, the magic of radio is the fact that you can just pitch up 10 minutes before if you want. No rehearsals, costumes unnecessary, makeup. I laugh in the very face of it. And here we are doing just that. Some of us got here a little bit earlier, the keen ones, but I have to say, got the train with Paul. And
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of got.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was too much got.
There are a lot of gots.
Yes,
It
you
wasn't
got,
stylish.
Got the train, you got the thing, and you got challenged. 24 seconds, Paul, are available. The magic of radio starting now.
If you listen to a current radio production such as Ed Reardon, you can only marvel at the producer's wit and ingenuity in conjuring up this oral landscape which you can immensely immerse yourself into. There are other...
Kit, challenge.
Immensely immerse yourself.
Yeah, immensely immerse yourself.
Oh, I thought you said immensely. He
Oh,
said
no,
immensely.
no,
Not
immensely. No,
Do you
no,
mince
no.
when you listen to
No,
radio?
very rare.
He didn't say. He said you immensely immerse yourself.
Was it? Oh, right.
It was a lot
What
of
does that
M's.
mean?
You immerse yourself in an immense way.
Deviation. I stand by my gun.
No.
Okay.
An incorrect challenge. Paul, 11 seconds still with you on the magic of radio, starting now.
One of Nicholas Parsons' first radio appearances was in a wonderful show called Much Binding in the Marsh. And if you listen to the archive...
Oh, Kit, you challenged.
Repetition of listen. I'm sorry.
I know, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. Anyway, Kit, you cleverly got in with only 2 seconds to go. Yes, that wasn't popular with the audience. But it's true within the rules of just a minute. 2 seconds, starting now.
Magic doesn't really work on the
Paul
radio.
challenged.
Oh, it was hesitation.
No, don't be... 1 second to go. The magic of radio, Kit, starting now.
When I've had my horse.
No, Tony didn't... Well,
I've nodded off.
all right, Paul had a bonus point on that. Tony's got a bonus point on that remark. Right, and there's half a second to go. The magic of radio, Kit, starting now.
Magic of radio.
at the end of that round, Paul, Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey are still equal in the lead. 1 point ahead of Tony Hawks and 2 or 3 ahead of Alun, Cochrane and Alun. We'd like you to begin the next round. Why Dad knows bests. Not no best, it's George Best. I'll say that again. The subject is why Dad knows best, starting now.
There are various reasons why Dad knows best, and there are also fewer excuses for why Dad knows bests. But why Dad knows best is because during pregnancy, I'm sorry to say it, but ladies are a host organ and their minds go to mush. My wife found it extremely difficult to remember basic facts, and since then, I have lauded it around the house saying Dad knows best. Actually, in truth, I know very little, and she runs the house like a military operation, continually...
Paul Challenge.
We had repetition of house.
Yes, of the house.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
You ran around the house before.
That's where we live, so... It's bound to happen sooner or later.
Paul, you've gone in with the correct challenge. A point to you, 28 seconds available. Why Dad knows best, starting now.
Well, I suppose the idea behind this subject, why Dad knows best, is that wisdom is lodged in the older generation. Of course, this can be true, but quite often the opposite is also the case.
Tony Challenge.
I would question his reasoning there. I don't think that is the case. It's a sex thing. It's not about the older generation. It's about why Dad knows.
No, I think to me he conveyed the fact the older generation at that time that was a saying and that was accepted truth. And nowadays
I don't like
we all
the way
know
this is going.
that we all. And now we all know that it's often Mum knows best, and as she often in charge of the house, I think she's entitled to have.
I think you may have just argued my point.
No, I haven't.
That was also my point, but it sounded like misogyny by accident. So just in case the audience has turned on me, I think I expressed my point badly, and I'd like to make up.
It could be a reality show, misogyny by accident.
Tony, I think that Paul was making out the fact that it was that period. It wasn't just that it was Dad. So, an incorrect challenge, and Paul, you've still got the subject. 17 seconds. Why Dad knows best, starting now.
If you turn towards the father figure in your life, and if he is your dad, that's a good thing, you can say to him, I don't understand so many aspects of the modern world. Tell me what it was like back in the 1940s when people had human values. Oh, yes, there was a second...
Oh, Tony Challenge.
Well, you can't do that if your dad wasn't born in the 1940s.
Well, I wouldn't attempt it if he hadn't have been.
But you did say if you, so...
Oh, I see, yes.
I'm looking around the audience, I'm confused. I thought you conveyed that if someone said that, it didn't have to be that that person's dad was born then.
No.
I don't like the way this is going.
No. I don't think, Paul, it was a legitimate challenge. I think the fair thing to do was to give them both a point and carry on.
Okay.
Or give no points at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And leave it with you, Paul, with 1 second to go. Why Dad knows best, starting now.
No, he doesn't.
So, Paul Merton with their extra point and others in the round is in the lead now. Just ahead, 1 or 2 ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey, 2 ahead of Tony Hawks, and 3 or 4 ahead of Alun Cochrane. And Kit, it's your turn, and I think we'd like you to take this subject. Conkers. Tell us something about conkers, starting now.
Conkers are the fruit of the horse chestnut tree, the Latin name for which is vincit, as in amor omnia, love conquers all. There is an old wives' tale that says that spiders don't...
Alun Challenge.
I'm not sure that's the Latin translation.
That's a very clever challenge, Alun, because I'm not confident to say no or yes. I did study Latin at school, and my impression is you are correct.
Yeah. It was a new language then, wasn't it? It was a new language. It was the latest thing, wasn't it?
I'm not going to give you a bonus point for that.
I don't want one.
Right. No, Alun, you've got a correct challenge, and you have 47 seconds. Tell us something about Conkers, starting now.
Conkers was the original draft of Dizzy Rascal's recent hit Bonkers, but then he realised that it probably wouldn't be a commercial success and went for a different song entirely. Conkers was also an original video game that didn't...
Kit challenge.
Original twice, wasn't that a
Yeah,
repetition?
original,
I'm
yes.
so sorry.
Original, say yes. Kit, you've got the subject back. You have 33 seconds still available. Conkers starting now.
There is an old wives' tale that says that spiders don't
wait a minute,
like
Alun
conkers.
challenge.
Repetition of old wives.
You had the whole
But
wives'
did I
tale
manage to
before?
get
Yes.
that in before the...
Yes, before.
Oh,
But you
Lord.
gave
I'm
it to us
sorry,
in
my
the
mind's giving me today.
So well listened, Alan. You got another
Well done,
point.
Alan.
You've got 30 seconds. Tell us a bit more, Alan, about conkers starting now.
When conkers fall from the trees and your car is parked under them, they can be extremely frightening as you walk away from the vehicle in question, and they can land on the floor.
Tony Challenge.
No, they can't. There's nothing frightening about a conker landing on a car.
You don't know, you might be a conkerphobic. An irrational fear of conkers.
Hey, I mean...
It could be an open-top car.
Yeah. Exactly. And he might just have come from the hospital having suffered a major head injury.
I don't like the way this is going.
He doesn't like the way it's going.
I think all that's been said justifies the fact that I don't give it against you, Alan. I mean, you could have a phobia about conkers.
Yeah.
I think it's very uncomfortable to suddenly have a conker shout on your head.
Absolutely.
You don't know what's happened, do you?
No.
So, incorrect challenge, Alan. Another point to you. You're catching up on the others. I'll say that on the microphone. You're catching up on the others. Right. 20 seconds ago, starting now.
Yesterday, as I was walking away from my open-top vehicle...
Oh, Tony Challenge.
He did say vehicle last time, right?
That's right, yes. Oh, right. So, Tony, you've gone in with clever listening. 17 seconds, conkers starting now.
When I was a young boy, I used to collect conkers, strap a...
Alan Challenge.
Sorry, it's just I'm scared of conkers and him mentioning it.
So, Alan, yes?
Very insensitive, I think.
I'd really rather we
No,
all
you've
stop
got a
talking
good
about it.
laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we do, Alan, has got nothing to do with the rules of just a minute. We give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption.
Yeah.
But
I
Tony
think
was...
is it wise to perhaps cover his ears for the rest of this round? I don't want to do an injury to him or anything.
No, because I think he was only playing for a laugh and
okay.
not a serious thought.
Fine.
But you got a point because you were interrupted, Tony. So there's no complaints. 14 seconds, conkers, starting now.
Skewer them, then pass a little bit of string through the middle, and then start whacking 10 tons of power out of the next conker that another child is honing, and then wonder...
Paul Challenge.
Sorry, how can you whack 10 tons of power out of a conker?
You can't.
You can't, no. Not 10 tons of
No.
power.
No, metaphorically speaking, he was trying to convey that.
Exactly.
No, I think, Paul, benefit of the doubt, and you have 6 seconds on conkers starting now.
I don't want Alan to hear me say the word, or indeed his mother be listening to the radio if the word conkers comes out.
So, what's the score? Because I've just been told this is the last round. So, as we go into the final round, let me give the situation. Paul was then speaking as a whistle win, got that extra point. He's just marginally in the lead, ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Tony Hawkes, who are equal in second place, and they are just 3 points ahead of Alan Cochrane, who's in third place. So that's the situation. Tony, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is a rather sweet one, having a duvet day. Tell us something about having a duvet day in just a minute, starting now.
I usually allow a complete day for putting a duvet cover on. It is the most extraordinarily difficult thing. I begin by...
Alan Challenge.
It's not that difficult. There's a really good trick if you turn it inside out and then just whip it like that. It really gets it straight on. So.
Alan, trying to be fair within the rules, I mean, that, to you, it's not difficult. But to Tony, it obviously is very difficult.
You're right. My motor skills are a bit more advanced than Tony's.
Well, at least I'm not scared of conkers.
So, Tony, an incorrect challenge, 51 seconds available. Having a duvet day, starting now.
I think we should all have a national duvet day where we all go out onto the street...
Paul Challenge.
So was that duvet?
No,
Duvet day.
It did sound a bit like that, but
days.
no, we know what he meant. Duvet day.
okay.
Even if he came out duvet day. He's going at such a pace.
Yeah.
He couldn't help it, right. 47 seconds. Tony, with you still. Having a duvet day, starting now.
I'm not certain about this, but I can only assume that duvet is perhaps a French word introduced into us by them, and we have used it for some time now for the little cover that goes over... Well, not it... Oh,
Kit, you've challenged.
Who was it?
Kit, your line
Was it?
came up first.
Sorry, we're so close, me and Paul. He crashed and burned.
Yes, I should explain to our listeners, Kit and Paul are sitting close beside each other, and on that
Sharing
side...
a duvet, actually.
And sharing a duvet. And actually, the light came on in front of me, which said it was Kit who got in there fractionally ahead of Paul in the challenge, and he's got 33 seconds to tell us something about having a duvet day starting now.
My sympathies are entirely with Tony Hawk's in this matter. It takes me hours. I struggle, and people look through the window and think that the Ku Klux Klan has moved to Norfolk.
Have they changed their name? Is it like Kentucky Fried Chicken? They've changed their name.
Did I get that wrong?
DVA, Ku Klux Klan.
What did I say? Klan?
Klan.
Klan, I'm very posh.
Yes.
Paul, you've got him with the correct challenge. 23 seconds. Tell us something about having a duvet day starting now.
Well, I openly admit I don't know what having a duvet I can't even say it. Never know what it means. What does it mean?
I don't know. Kit will tell us.
I will, yes.
You've got a correct
Do I get the
challenge.
subject?
You've got to say, got 19 seconds.
Yeah.
The correct challenge. Having a duvet day, Kit, starting now.
It's an American term,
Is
Paul.
it?
It came over meaning when you call in with a sickie 2 or 3 times a year, and it's perfectly legitimate. You're allowed to tell your employer I got absolutely bladdered last night, and I simply can't face coming into work, or you've got a bit of a headache, or somebody rather nice in bed with you, and you don't wish to stir. But it is not against the rules of industry.
So, yes, it means when you are faking it and not getting into work, so you're staying at home and having a duvet day. Right. Let me give you the final score. Alun Cochrane, who hasn't played quite as much as the others, came back and excelled fantastically, but finished in 4th place. But that doesn't matter. It's the contribution that's so important. He was a few points behind Tony Hawk's, and he was 1 point behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey. And Kit was 2 points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. Thank you. It only remains me to say thank you to the 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Tony Hawk's and Alun Cochrane. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle most delicately after the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to the creator of this game, Ian Messiter, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in Salford Quays at the Lowry Theatre who've cheered us on our way. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the panel, goodbye. Thank you for tuning in. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the show today 4 talented, exciting, humorous individuals who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Kevin Eldon, and on my right, Julian Clary and Paul Merton. Please welcome all 4 of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me keep the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House, and it's packed to the seams with lovely, exciting people who queued in the cold and are now warming themselves up. As we get the show started with Paul, would you take the first round? Yes. Oh, I think it's topical, isn't it, Paul? Taking my driving test. I believe that happened recently, didn't it?
About 15 years ago.
Right. So you told me something which wasn't true recently?
Yes, yeah,
right. Well, that's the subject, taking my driving test. And you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I remember taking my driving test as if it was yesterday, but in fact it was 1995, and the instructor looked at me before I took the examination and he said, "Are you sure you're going to be able to propel this motor vehicle around the streets of Putney in a safe and assured way as guaranteed by the highway code?" I said, "Not only that, but I'll bring it back in one piece." And I did. And I remember reversing around the corner, and it was just so beautifully done. I say it myself, I've never had to do it since, but as I saw the curb just there, as the car came backwards, I realised that I was maintaining the optimum length of about 9 inches between me and the edge of the road. I turned to the examiner.
Julian, you've challenged.
Repetition of road.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of roads.
It was boring as well. I was jumping. Two things wrong
So,
with
Julian, repetition. A correct challenge, a point to you for that, and you take over the subject, and there are 20 seconds available.
20 seconds.
Taking my driving test, starting now.
I took my driving test over 30 years ago, and in those days it was much easier. All you needed was a nice smile and a pleasant cologne. The instructor asked me to pull into a lay-by at one point. I said, "I know your game." He said, "I want you to show me your three-point turn." I said, "Shall I turn the engine off first?" He said that wouldn't be necessary.
So in this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. It was Julian Clary, and he's the only one to score at the end of that round. But there's time to go yet. Kevin, welcome to the show. It's the first time you've played it, Kevin, and we've got a subject here for you. A new broom. Will you tell us something about that in this game?
Is that topical for you, Kevin? Have you recently bought a new broom?
Topical. It's always on my mind.
Yeah.
Right. Well, talk about a new broom if you can, Kevin. 60 seconds starting now.
A new broom is what the modern young witch is after these days. They don't like the old ones. They're knobbly sticks with twigs at the back of them, and you might get a splinter somewhere. No, you're... Hag, these...
So, Paul, you challenged?
Well, it was a bit of a hesitation.
Yeah, it was definite hesitation, yes, but you can understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
First time, thrown in, deep end.
Yeah.
47 seconds, still available. A new broom with you, Paul, starting now.
My advice to Kevin would be, as a new broom, to speak at a level of volume and also speed which you can maintain, instead of speeding up really quickly when you get a bit 20 seconds.
Julian
That's what
challenge.
happens.
Turning into gibberish.
Yeah, I know. So it's a repetition of...
My second language.
Yes.
I've got an O level in it.
Right. Yes, a repetition of whatever it was. And so another point to you, Julian. And you have 38 seconds. A new broom starting now.
I buy a new broom about every 6 months. It's not the bristles that wear out in my house. I find that it's very important. If you want to...
So, Sue, you challenged. So within the rules of just a minute...
Deviation from
What?
the correct use of a broom.
He
never
was
found out.
talking about a new broom, and he had to get another
It's a
one.
free country. If you buy a broom, you can use it whatever way you want.
Exactly.
Must be hard to clean the other way around, but yeah.
So, Julian, I think actually that was an incorrect challenge. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, and if I can redress the balance sometime, Sue, to you, I will. But, Julian, another point to you. 29 seconds. A new broom starting now.
A new broom is very important if you're going to keep...
Sue challenged.
Sorry, that was a repetition of important.
Yes, because you said before that was important when you had a new broom, and you got your second broom, and that was very important. So, well, listen, Sue, you've got the correct challenge, you've got the subject, you've 26 seconds, a new broom starting now.
I'm conventional in the way I use my broom. I like to use it to sweep up things, inevitably droppings from the rat that's taken up residency in my basement. Don't know why it's there. The only thing it can feast on is some outdated sports equipment.
Julian challenged.
was deviating from the subject of the broom.
Yes, you're talking about...
About rat droppings.
But I was cleaning them with a broom.
Yes, now listen, I gave you the benefit of the doubt last time. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Simpson, because you were using a broom to sweep out the droppings, so there we are.
Better believe it.
You have a point for
Let
that.
me tell you which end now.
For incorrect. 13 seconds, Sue. A new broom starting now.
A new broom is a thing of great joy. Pristine it is as it comes from its cellophane wrapping, and you think of all the things you might be able to do with it. Just using it as something you can mop up with or clear is only one use in the multiple...
Julian challenge.
You can't mop up with a broom, can you?
You can only sweep up. I'll sweep away.
Yeah.
I'll tidy away, but not mop.
What,
I would love to come and see your house sometime.
It's just a wet, it's a wet broom. I'm pioneering the wet broom technique. I live near a river. It's underground mopping.
Mopping with a broom, right. No, Julian, you have a correct challenge, and there's 1 second left, starting now.
And you...
So at the end of that round, Julian was again speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's running away with it at the moment. He's got quite a lot of points ahead of Paul, Merton and Sue Perkins in that order. Kevin has yet to make any impact, but he's... No!
He will.
That's softening the pill, isn't it, Nicholas?
But his time is coming. I mean, it happens with somebody coming on for the
He's
first
yet to
time.
give you the benefit of the doubt.
You're
Yeah.
going to get the benefit of the doubt.
Wait.
And, Sue, we're back with you. Would you begin the next round? The icing on the cake. That's the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
The icing on the cake is the ultimate experience, unless, of course, you're diabetic. It's the pièce de résistance, the top of the tops. It's something one would look forward to as an additional bonus. For instance, playing the game Just a Minute. It's ideal and exquisite within itself. But to win would be the icing on the cake. Of course, we're not bothered. We're ego-free and certainly non-competitive human beings, and thus we've chosen to work in the medium of show business, an area famed for its demure and entirely selfless human beings.
Paul, challenge.
Thank you. I think I speak for us all there. I think that was wonderful. It was a moving speech, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it moving?
And so what's your challenge when the rules are just a minute?
I am...
Deviation.
Deviation.
Why?
Well, you tell him.
She was wittering on.
She was wittering on, according to my learned friend.
It was no longer about icing.
I think when you're both on the show together, you should sit together. You work very well as a double act.
Do we?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our new catchphrase. Thank you very much.
Not at all. I don't think you did. So
No.
Sue was interrupted.
Yeah.
She gets a point. 28 seconds. The icing on the cake, Sue, starting now.
The best thing about the icing on the cake was just demonstrated by that challenge, wasn't it?
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of just.
Yes, it was.
She had just a minute earlier.
Just a minute.
But there's still one thing I don't understand, Inspector.
Those are the rules of the game, audience. And Paul was listening well. You have 23 seconds still available. Paul, the icing on the cake starting now.
If you see the cake as the absolute triumph of everything you want in life, then the icing placed on top of that confectionery must seem like the golden gilt of a budgerigard song played through golden loudspeakers. Interrupted.
Julian's challenge.
Hang on, a budgerigard soul doesn't hang together in my mind. So I would call that deviation.
Yeah, no way would I call a budgerigard's soul the icing on the cake.
I don't know, I've eaten that Heston Blumenthal's.
Yes. It's dish of the day.
10 seconds, Julian. The icing on the cake, starting now.
My mother used to let me lick the bowl when she was making a cake during my growing up period, and it was delicious, especially chocolate. The icing on the cake is by far the most delicious.
So, Julian, in sporting terms, you're doing what is known as playing a blinder.
Oh, yes.
Because once again, you were speaking as the whistle went, gained that all-important extra point, have increased your lead. Sue Perkins and Paul Merton are still equal in second place, both having got points in that round. And Kevin is still in third place. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. Dressing provocatively. So, listeners, that reaction was because Paul has a very attractive scarf around his neck, and he threw it back in a flamboyant way.
It's not that attractive.
Right.
Look at you in your grey top.
Right, Paul, dressing provocatively, 60 seconds, starting now.
I dress provocatively when I perform on Just a Minute and sitting next to Julian Clary. I know he can't take his eyes off me. Look at him now. He's looking straight at me. He can't take his eyes. And I figure myself to be a man who can carry off a kumquat, a kumquat.
So,
Kevin, very odd words, aren't
you
they?
challenge.
Yeah, I was wondering what a kumquat was.
He can carry it off.
A kumquat
American fruit.
Is a fruit.
I thought it was a kumquat.
No.
That's how the Americans pronounce it, but for me it's always been kumquat.
It is a kumquat, Kevin, but look, don't get out of this one. You've got the subject.
Yeah, you've got a subject.
I have.
Yes.
Deviation, okay.
Deviation, yes, right. Well listened and well challenged.
Yeah.
Well done. So you have 48 seconds, Kevin, on dressing provocatively, starting now.
Dressing provocatively can be quite good fun. I remember once I went into a Mormon church wearing a T-shirt which said, "I hate the Osmonds" on it, apart from Crazy Horses, which was quite a good stonking single, actually. But if there's a good example of somebody who dresses provocatively, it must be Anne Widdecombe on Strictly Come Dancing. Whenever I see her in a new costume, I'm provoked to say, "What the hell is that?" And then I roll about laughing my head off until I start weeping, realising that I've wasted hours of my life watching that glittery rubbish and I should have been reading some great novels or something like that. But if you're dressing provocatively in a sexy kind of way, then you should wear what I'm wearing now, this gold lame leotard, which everybody is enjoying, I know. A lot of comments were given to me backstage when I appeared in it.
Kevin, you've got this audience in the palm of your hand. Well done. You kept going provocatively until the whistle went. You gained an extra point for doing so. You've got 2 wonderful points now. And but you're still in third place, but not to worry. Your contribution's what matters. And Sue, we're back with you. We'd like you to begin the next round. Waiting rooms. Can you tell us about that subject in this game starting now?
Waiting rooms are fabulous for people who want to know the celebrity gossip from 1989. Simply arrive at the dentist's or doctor's and immerse yourself in a world where batwing jumpers reign supreme. Should you become bored of Madonna before she developed arms like giant haystacks, then peruse at leisure leaflets about chlamydia and how to get it, should you fancy getting that most cherished of downstairs diseases. I love the idea one could enter the waiting room perfectly healthy and leave an hour and a half later full of every single germ/virus that the world can possibly produce. It is a toxic melting pot of sneezes, coughs, gibbering wrecks, pensioners that wink at you with trousers halfway down their ankles. When you go in and see...
Paul, you're challenged.
Deviation, you can't wink at somebody with your trousers.
I think you can wink in any condition you're in.
But you can't wink with your trousers.
No, she said her trousers down and winking.
It adds the effect. So, you don't have
the image makes me laugh. This poor old decrepit pensioner, rather like me, going into the waiting room, suddenly, displaying himself. Putting his trousers
You're going to put it
down
on your to-do list?
And then wink. Oh, I've dried myself out. Thank you, Sue, for the image you've given me. I think it was an incorrect challenge, Sue. So you go on with your winking and trousers down.
Absolutely.
And there are 8 seconds available. Waiting rooms are starting now.
Occasionally a nurse might pop by and wipe flecks of vomit with her new mop broom that she's got from the shops that
somehow managed... So, Sue, you changed the whole flavour with that last remark of yours, but you kept going till the whistle went, gained that extra point, and you're now only 2 points behind Julian Clary, who's still in the lead. You're 3 ahead of Paul Merton, who's in third place, and then Kevin bringing up the rear. And Paul Merton, your turn to begin. The subject is... Oh, who's going to go on this one? Quantum physics.
You've only got a minute, though, Paul.
Yes.
Be brief.
He's writing it down. Don't think you can forget it. Quantum physics, 60 seconds, Paul, starting now.
I'm amused by the audience's reaction that somehow I'd be incapable of talking about quantum physics, but let me show you something. There's 2 elements, quantum physics, put them together. Physics, quantum, whichever way you put it, it's still quantum physics.
So, Kevin, you pressed your buzzer.
And we didn't... There was deviation there. We wanted a bit more details about quantum physics.
In a minute? In a minute?
Yes, in a minute.
There was sort of deviation and some form of hesitation.
Might have been hesitation.
I think there was all.
Yes.
And there was certainly repetition as well, wasn't there?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
But that's the subject in the car, so that wouldn't have helped.
Hesitation, though.
Yeah,
hesitation, really.
Yeah.
So, well listened, Kevin. I mean, you've got him with 50 seconds to go. Tell us something about quantum physics, starting now.
What a fascinating and complex subject it is, and it's fascinated me for many years. Now, did you know, up until about 100 years ago, people believed...
Sue, challenge.
Repetition of years. Many years. I'm interested in fascinating. No, I'm bad.
Yes.
I'm bad.
So soon. They're all getting the subject they don't
It's
want.
okay, because I don't know anything about it, so inevitably they'll be
41
deviating.
seconds try on quantum physics, Sue, starting now.
What I don't know about quantum physics isn't worth saying in this room, but let me mention the word string theory, and that's as far as that goes. I read it once, and I believe it's got to do with a ball that endlessly rotates in the universe. Who knows?
Julian, challenge.
Deviating away from quantum physics.
Yes. The ball that revolves. No, that's not quantum
String
physics.
theories?
Well, yeah, I absolutely concur. I hadn't got a clue.
I know.
I was going to say the word quark and hope that would get me out of trouble.
You were going with supreme confidence with rubbish. And
Thus my career, Nicholas.
Julian, you've got in with 30 seconds. You try and tell us something about quantum physics, starting now.
Although I was away from school on the day we did quantum physics because I had one of my heads, I did read up about it in my spare time, and I can tell you, x multiplied by the length of distance from here to the moon is only the beginning. It gets far more complicated and indeed surreal and involves matters that my brain can just about cope with, but I'm not sure everyone in this room could, if you know what I'm saying. Quantum physics.
So Julian Clary very cleverly kept going on a subject which I don't think he knows any more about than the rest of us. And
Well, he hit it well.
Well, he did it well, yes. And he's got the extra point for speaking as the whistle went. He's increased his lead at the end of the round. And Kevin, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is my comedy hero. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Well, that's very difficult, of course, because anybody sitting here tonight could be a candidate to be my comedy hero. Now...
Paul, challenge.
What about that bloke in the third row over there? Deviation, you see, deviation.
Deviation, because it couldn't have been anybody in the audience. You should have established it was one of these four people up here.
I said on the panel, didn't I?
Yeah, it's
Didn't I
on the
say on the panel.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said sitting here.
You did say...
Oh, sitting... I went like that, though. I know that doesn't read on the radio.
You did have made a gesture, but I know you conveyed it was sitting here, but I'm not going to allow it because you haven't played the game before.
Yeah.
And so you're there, and you've got another point because it was an incorrect challenge, by the way.
Oh, really?
And this... You can build up points with incorrect challenges. 52 seconds still available, Kevin. My comedy hero starting now.
So, in fact, my real comedy hero is Richard Madeley. I think he's absolutely hilarious, unintentionally, of course. Every time he opens his mouth, especially in an interview, I love watching him unwittingly and without any malice put his great size 10s right in it as he tramples over various people's sensibilities and feelings. Oh, how I laugh at him in his jumper and his trousers and his floppy fringe and his lovely wife. All this fills me with the most deep of all joys, and I shall continue having him as my comedy hero, I think, until I draw my very last breath. I think that Richard Madeley should be...
So you kept going then for 40 seconds, which is very good, and you haven't played the game before. And I must explain to our listeners, his animation as he talks is absolutely incredible, and it has to be seen to be believed. But, Paul, you challenged.
Oh, I've forgotten what it was now.
Yeah.
Repetition of Richard Madeley.
Paul, yes, that's right. So you've got 11 seconds. Paul, tell me something about my comedy hero starting now.
I suppose my comedy heroes have changed over the years. Many days ago, I would have felt...
Julian challenge.
Oh, here we go. It's going to be silent movie people, is it?
Julian, I don't know why you're piqued, but we all know that Paul has this great love of the silent comedy heroes.
Well,
why should
Might be
you be piqued
you,
about
might be you, Julian.
Why are you piqued about the fact that he might use that material in this show?
Oh. The number of times I've sat in the back of a cab with Paul going on about...
Well, I don't think you can get me on repetition on things I've said previously in my life.
That's a whole new format.
Julian, you've only got to listen for 6 more seconds. It's not going to be sitting in the back of a cab forever like this.
6 seconds, eh?
Incorrect challenge, Paul.
Charlie Chaplin.
It might be another one you don't know.
He never made me laugh.
I don't suppose you had much of an effect on him.
6 seconds, Paul. My comedy hero, starting now.
Undoubtedly, Mrs. Shufflewick. What a wonderful act she was there. That pleased you, didn't it? An old variety drag act from the 19...
There you are, Julian. That's surprising. So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point, and others in the round, and he's moved forward. I've just heard we're moving into the final round. Oh, you are lovely. And so let me give you the situation. Kevin Eldon, who's not played the game before, is doing very well. Because when he starts, you can hardly stop him. He's great. And but he's lingering a little in fourth place. Paul Merton's ahead of him, but Paul's only 1 point behind Sue Perkins, and she's only 3 points behind Julian Clary. As we go into the loose last round, I think I saw there's somebody on the card, and I thought of the word loose. Because, Julian, it's your turn to begin, and the sun... Right, Julian, eating spaghetti. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Don't know what that's got to do with loose, but anyway, eating spaghetti can cause...
Sue challenge.
It's like hesitation?
No, I don't think so. No. He wanted to... I was thinking about... He didn't understand why I should think that loose has got something to do with spaghetti. Well, spaghetti is loose. It's individual strands.
It's not the only thing that's loose, is it?
Then we've got that screwdriver.
No, I'm going to give Julian the benefit of the doubt, Sue, and say eating spaghetti, 55 seconds. Still with you, Julian, starting now.
Stab your fork into the bowl of spaghetti and twirl it round and then pop it onto a spoon. Continue this motion until it's all round or about the...
Sue challenge.
Hesitation, it's like stumble, round and abound.
No, he repeated, but he didn't hesitate. No, I don't think you hesitated, Julian.
Well, I kind of think I did, but I'm happy to have an extra bonus point.
No, if the bonus point goes anyway, it goes to what's your name?
Just call me Hermione like you did
Sue.
yesterday.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt last time, Julian, so I'll make it fair and redress the balance.
you've changed your
You have
mind.
the benefit of the doubt
We're
now.
playing a whole new game here.
No,
It's very abstract.
No, it's the way we play the game. 46 seconds, Sue. Eating spaghetti, starting now.
I like a good slick of olive oil, which really helps the sauce permeate the spaghetti. Then, as Julian has indicated, twirling it with a fork before ramming it into my mouth. Often I'll stab my lips. I'm in that much of a frenzy for my high GI, highly carbonated, not carbonated, it's not fizzy, calorific.
Julian, you challenge.
Repetition of carbonated.
It's carbonated, yes.
Strange, really. Yes. Anyone else like fizzy pasta? Absolutely.
Right,
not.
you've got your spaghetti back again, Julian. Well done. And you've got 28 seconds. Eating spaghetti, starting now.
I once tried eating spaghetti with a broom handle, but it didn't work. There's not enough room in my mouth, so I returned to the conventional use of finger and thumb, which is how they eat spaghetti in Italy, certainly in the north of that lovely country, where they invented olives.
Paul, challenge.
Hesitation, but I don't think they invented olives.
Olive oil, I was going to say.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It didn't come out, though, did it, Julian?
No.
Well, I didn't get a chance.
No.
Hesitation. Paul, correct challenge. So we're going to hear from you on eating spaghetti with 12 seconds to go, starting now.
So there I was on the heath. The moonlight was playing about his temples. I suddenly...
Julian, challenge.
Well, there's nothing about spaghetti in that sentence. Deviation.
Well, I hadn't finished the sentence.
He might be coming to the fact that he was eating spaghetti on the heath
absolutely.
there. He hadn't quite got underway.
Not yet, no.
So, on this occasion, he will have the benefit of the doubt.
That's the benefit of the doubt I was getting, was it?
Yeah, that's the one. 7 seconds, Paul, still eating spaghetti with you, starting now.
I remember my first experience of eating spaghetti. It was extraordinary. There was Field Marshal Montgomery, Lulu...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained an extra point for doing so. Let me give you the final score. Kevin Eldon, who hasn't played the game before, finished in a magnificent 4th place. And, no, it was, very good. Very good. because, Kevin, it's the contribution. It's not... points become secondary. Just ahead was Sue Perkins, and 1 point ahead of her was Paul Merton. About 3 points ahead of Paul, the man who got the lead at the beginning, kept it to the end, so we say, Julian, Clary, you are our winner this week. It only remains to say thank you to these four intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Kevin Eldon and Sue Perkins. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds did lapse. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're indebted to this lovely, warm, friendly audience here at the Radio Theatre, who seems to have enjoyed themselves, which made our task so much easier. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and please tune in the next time we play Just a Minute!
And you can join Nicholas Parsons for Just a Minute at the same time next week when the panellists are Paul Merton, Alun Cochrane, Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Tony Hawkes.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four talented, excited, brilliant, clever, amusing, witty players who are going to show off their skill and dexterity with words, and those four are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and seated on my left, Alun Cochrane and Tony Hawkes. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep a score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Lowry Centre at Salford Quays. And we have a lovely Salford, Manchester, Northwest audience in front of us who are just eager for us to start the show, aren't you? Absolutely. And let's begin with Tony Hawkes. Tony, my favourite character in Coronation Street. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I have to confess to not being a huge fan of Coronation Street, although it does come from Manchester, hence the reaction against me from this beautiful audience, who I feel confident will forgive me shortly. I did go to the set, which you can wander around if you come up to this place. I looked for my favourite character, Elsie Tanner, know nothing about her. She wasn't anywhere to be found. I asked for my money back, and I was furious. I went up to the manager, I shook his head.
You're challenged.
Manager. It was... he hesitated.
No, he didn't. He shook his head, that's all.
Before he shook his head, I went up to the man manager. Well, I suppose it could have been a woman manager. I don't know.
He was a man. I wouldn't shake the head of a woman. That would be rude.
I think it was on the slip of the tongues, but he kept going and made it sound
yes, he did.
fluent.
Brilliantly.
So I don't think I can give it to you for hesitation.
Okay. No, that's fine.
So, Tony, I think you wriggled out of that one quite cleverly, and you still keep the subject. You get a point for an incorrect challenge, and you have 33 seconds to continue on my favourite character in Coronation Street, starting now.
I believe there were quite a few Duckworths for a period of time, and I was not familiar with any of them, which will make this next 20 seconds unexciting in many ways.
Paul, you've
I've got a solution to that. I think it's deviation because he hasn't talked about his favourite character. He says he hasn't got one because he hasn't watched the show. So you see, by definition, he can't actually deliver on the subject because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. One person agreed with me.
Let's remember this is the BBC, Nicholas.
I'll go by the power of the mob. Do you think Paul's challenge is legitimate? If so, cheer. I won't ask for the reverse. Paul, you've got the benefit of the doubt. You've 22 seconds on my favourite character in Coronation Street, starting now.
My favourite character in Coronation Street is undoubtedly Albert Tatlock. He was a juvenile delinquent when I started watching it. He was known for scrumping apples. But also Minnie Coldwell. There was this wonderful woman who had a cat called Bobby. And perhaps that particular feline animal was my favourite character when I come to think about it. There used to be...
Tony Challenge.
Well, he's got 3 favourite characters.
Yeah. And you didn't have one.
That's worse than not having one, that is, having 3.
It's not worse than having none, is it?
I don't know. Can you have 3 favourite characters? There's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Of course you can.
What does favourite mean?
Favourite means primus, not inter pares. It is primus, isn't it? You did Latin.
They make cookers, don't they? They make cookers.
You're technically correct, but I think colloquially people talk about my favourite and multiply it by
People
1.
learn English from this programme.
Yeah.
You have a responsibility.
Well, kid.
And that's why the world's in the mess it is today.
Paul, you've got the benefit of the doubt.
Have I?
6 seconds on my favourite character in Coronation Street, starting now.
But when we think of Coronation Street, we must reflect on...
Kid Challenge.
We prefer not to. This is the BBC.
Well, all right, we'll give you a bonus point because it was a very amusing and interesting and intelligent interruption.
Yeah.
But Paul has the benefit of the doubt, and he's still got my favourite character in Coronation Street. And 3 seconds, Paul, starting now.
The barmaid at the Rover's Return, Bette Lynch, with that huge tower of hair.
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, and in this game, whoever does that gains an extra point, and you won't be surprised to hear that he's in the lead at the end of the first round. Kit Hesketh-Harvey, will you begin the next round? Oh, dear, this is an interesting subject. What Nicholas keeps in his wallet? Well, my wallet is there. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Not money, clearly, because he is the most generous of people, and as he walks the streets of Salford and children crowd to touch the hem of his garment, he distributes £5 notes to them blithely, insouciant of his financial future. He's got his Botox loyalty card.
I was just going to say deviation. I think the reason the children are following him is that he carries Dairyly all the time. And kids love Dairyly.
Oh, really?
They'll do anything for it.
Maybe he keeps it in his wallet.
Yeah. I just felt...
Do you keep cheese in your wallet?
I don't have cheese or Dairyly or any of those things, but I tell you what, as you were being sort of within the worlds of fantasy, and Alan's within the world of fantasy with Dairyly in my pocket, I'm going to give Alan a chance to come in on this one and say, not the benefit of the doubt, but I think just justice. No, not justice.
It's an old-fashioned British word, but it still means something.
So poetic justice for the surreal thoughts they've both been putting forward. Alan, 46 seconds. What Nicholas keeps in his wallet, starting now.
Thin slices of processed cheese are all that Nicholas Parsons keeps in his wallet. I'm not quite sure why we've started this strange, surreal running of Nicholas Parsons being in... Oh, yeah.
Repetition of Parsons.
Yeah. Yes, because it's Nicholas on there. Yes. And you got back in again on the surreal way that this is going. 35 seconds, kid. What Nicholas keeps in his wallet, starting now.
Fan letters from the great and the good to him. Mrs. Siddons and David Garrick, I believe, are in there. No driving licence, obviously, because he dates from before the time when carriages were horseless. But a chequebook. He's particularly fond of Milos Kundera as the unbearable likeness of being. Oh, sorry, I've hoisted myself.
It's a slight hesitation while we all marvelled. It was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation. Thank you for rescuing me.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Paul. He's bringing out so many Latin tags, it's not true. I don't think he even knows what they mean.
It's Milan Kundera, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, not so clever
What
now.
did we say? Oh, I don't... Is that how you pronounce him as well? I had no idea.
I don't know. I've only read it.
Oh, which was great.
Never said it before.
Right. Paul, you had the correct challenge. And you have the subject now, what Nicholas keeps in his wallet. And there are 16 seconds starting now.
Large white fivers the size of bedsheets. Currency that had been banned back in the early 1960s, still...
Tony Challenge.
Well, I think it was more withdrawn than banned. I don't think they banned the £5 note. They withdrew
Well,
it.
it was no longer legal currency. So
Yeah, but
in
it
the
wasn't
sense that's-
banned.
Well, it's
It
no
wasn't
longer
like
legal currency.
you didn't go to prison if you had one.
No, I didn't suggest you did, but it was banned as legal currency because it was no longer legal
Nicholas?
currency.
No, I think I've got to be with you on this one, Tony. It
Thank you
wasn't
very
banned.
much. Thank
It was disbanded.
No, it wasn't banned. You were allowed to use it all the time.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to get anything in exchange for it.
No,
'Cause
but
it was a legal tender.
no, it wasn't legal tender.
So it wasn't banned.
Wasn't banned, no.
No, but just withdrawn.
Yeah, it wasn't banned.
So I think I've got to give the benefit of the doubt to Tony.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then at least everyone has spoken on this subject in this round,
Yeah.
which has been almost surreal. Well, it has been surreal. What Nicholas keeps in his wallet, Tony, and 8 seconds starting now.
Imagine the scene. Nicholas is getting his hair cut. The barber says, "Would you like anything for the weekend?"
Full chance.
Well, we haven't heard any mention of the wallet. He's been going for quite some time. I mean, deviation from the subject as written on the card.
He only
Shame.
went for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I know. 5 seconds.
In relation to the 60 seconds available,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you another benefit of the doubt. Tony.
Yeah,
You
do.
say, keep the subject. 3 seconds. What Nicholas keeps in his wallet, starting now.
Yes, I'll have one of those, Nicholas said. Pops it in his wallet.
Oh, wait a minute. Poor time.
Oh, I buzzed just before he said wallet, so I withdraw my challenge. But having added that seconds onto the previous second, he still hadn't mentioned wallet. I thought it was time to come in.
You're probably right. I've given benefits all round. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Paul. 1 second, Paul, on what Nicholas keeps in his wallet, starting now.
A signed photograph of Lord Haw-Haw.
I used to impersonate him during the war, but I...
You used to impersonate Lord Haw-Haw?
Germany calling. Germany calling.
It's uncanny.
Where is the Ark Royal? Anybody old enough to remember that? He became one of the most popular comics on radio.
Yeah, Lord Haw-Haw, yeah.
Yes, and he was... what was his name? And he was hanged.
William
wasn't he?
Joyce.
William Joyce, thank you. Your knowledge of history is great. He was put in the Tower of London, wasn't he, when after the war? Yes.
I think the last person to be actually hung in the...
Can't you go to the pub and talk about this?
This is history.
Yeah.
This
I'm
what
nodding off.
This is... This is
Well, your
part of-
attention, your attention span has never been great, has it?
Right. Let's continue with just
Yeah,
a minute. And
yeah.
Alun Cochrane would like you to begin the next round. And the subject in front of me is Bobbins. Tell us something about... It's a real old-fashioned period. Now.
Yeah.
I suppose that's what I identify with it.
Yeah. Did you put on a special accent when you said Bobbins?
No.
You're not
No, I
auditioning
did-
for somebody, are you?
No, I was just thinking how foolish I was to say, is this an old-fashioned word? How I identify with it, which was very foolish of me, because I like to think I'm modern and up to time and everything.
Well,
This
3
audience
people agree with you.
I know. Right, Alan, the subject is Bobbins, and your time starts now.
Bobbins is one of those words that's only used by modern, up-to-date, trendy, fashionable people. And it's a word used in the northwest of England, which I found out means bad. But I learned that lesson the hard way when I moved to that area, and people would say to me after my show, your show was Bobbins. Thank you very much, I would say.
Tony Challenge.
Repetition of show?
Yes, your show. I removed it after my show. Yes.
It's all right, I'm an adult, I can cope.
Tony, you have a correct challenge. 41 seconds on Bobbins, starting now.
I'm not absolutely certain about this and will probably be corrected, but I thought bobbins were those little things in the middle of Now, nobody can argue with that.
I think it's a province in India.
Who challenged first? I cut it out.
Yes, hesitation
Oh,
and
yes,
deviation.
it was. And he
all at
deserves
once.
to hesitate after
Yeah.
what he said. Right. 24 seconds, Kit, is available for you on Bobbins, starting now.
It's a theatrical term for a load of old rubbish. There was a glorious story. Hell, I've
Tony Challenge.
Well, we were going to let that go, but
Were
he
you?
just...
Shall I just carry on?
He threw himself
No.
on his own sword
I'm
and then...
just too honourable. That's the trouble.
he was too honourable and hesitated again.
Yes, he hesitated. Right. 28 seconds. Tony, correct challenge. 28 seconds on Bobbins, starting now.
In sewing machines, I believe, but I'm no expert on bobbins, as will become apparent. In the northwest, and possibly other areas around there, it's a bad thing. I've learnt this from Alan, and I think Alan...
Full challenge. Alan, you didn't pick it up. He
I
turned to
did,
you.
I just missed it. I was a
I
little
just
bit
missed
behind
it.
Kit.
Yes, Paul, your challenge.
Repetition of Alan.
Of Alan, yes. So there's 11 seconds still available on Bobbins, Paul, starting now.
There's an old Northern phrase and it says, "Hey there, little bit get the Bobbins." What happened then?
Kit challenge. What
It was lovely, but as I say, people are learning English. I really don't feel that
But English is more than just the BBC pronunciation.
Absolutely, absolutely, but you do need teeth.
an island of dialects.
But that wasn't any particular dialect. It was a sort of
It was
bastardisation.
very insulting to the good people.
Bastardisation?
Yes. Of a northwest accent.
Do you think anybody in this room speaks like that?
Me.
Oh,
And you.
Oh, well. A bonus point to that man in the audience at the back there.
Yeah.
And, Kit, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you have 7 seconds on Bobbins starting now.
we had to do French knitting to get out of the core at school, and you stick 4 nails into the top of a bobbin and produce a skein of wool which is absolutely useless.
So, Kit Hesketh-Harvey was then speaking as the whistle went. Gain that extra point is equal with Tony Hawks in second place, just behind Paul Merton, and they're all just ahead of Alan Cochrane.
But I'm not technically last, because now that man in the audience is behind me.
So true.
Yes, I don't think you'll be able to get any more points, because otherwise the whole game will be up kibosh.
I'm just glad to be off the bottom.
Well, I'll tell you, we'll give him another bonus point, because we did enjoy what he said. Right.
What about the man in the audience? Why doesn't he get another one?
Do you want a bonus point at the back there? Yes, please. Right. Put his name down there. Well, have you got a name? Will, right.
Will be able to go home and say, "You never guessed what happened to me."
I came 5th in just a minute. You never thought you'd work your way in that way, did you, Will? Right. And Paul, we'd like you to begin. Oh, that lovely subject. Seeing the dentist. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Seeing the dentist is all very well if you have a good dentist, somebody that you can trust. And there is a gentleman that I see in the Notting Hill area in London who's very good. His name is Simon Godley. He's also partly a comedian and an actor, and he has appeared on television over the years. And he has an enormous number of show business anecdotes. His favourite is Bruce Forsyth. He can regale you with stories that he's read from Brucey's autobiography, and they are wonderful. Oh, they're lovely, lovely stories. That's what he tells me. And
Kit, new challenge.
Repetition of lovely.
lovely,
Lovely. So, Kit, a correct challenge for repetition, and it's with you now. Seeing the dentist, 33 seconds available, starting now.
I try not to see the dentist if I can possibly help it. I screw my eyes up very
Tell me challenge.
Was there a hesitation?
Yes, there was. I'm sorry.
Well, we interpret that as
I was very
hesitation.
fearful.
He was trying to
was
turn one
Pavlovian.
word into another. I don't know what you're saying, Kit, but I'm just trying to interpret it. So, Tony, you got the subject. Seeing the dentist, and there are 28 seconds starting now.
I've never quite understood why the dentist insists on asking you a question when he's got your mouth wedged wide open. Where did you go on holiday this year?
Alan, you challenged.
Ibiza.
I didn't know you were a dentist,
I thought I was in the sketch for a moment.
but there was a repetition of
Yeah, he said, that was definitely my challenge. Absolutely.
So you got the subject. You've got 18 seconds on seeing the dentist, Alan, starting now.
Ibiza, I told my dentist as he asked me where I'd been on holiday this year whilst he had his hands in my mouth. He didn't seem to think it was an excellent holiday and recommended Pontin.
Oh, dear, Kit, challenge.
Sorry, I feel awful. You said holiday twice,
You
darling.
said holiday
Oh, yes.
twice.
Yeah.
So I did, darling.
8 seconds. Back with you, Kit.
It's like a punch in a velvet glove, isn't it? Someone calls you darling whilst taking the points off you. You feel...
No, you're gaining. You're gaining.
Right.
We're all winning. Seeing the dentist, Kit, with you, starting now.
It's virtually impossible these days. You have to go to Slovenia, Bratislava, Prague, somewhere like
Alan,
that.
challenge.
You don't. Mine's just up the road.
Alan, we're going to give that one to you as well. 5
Sorry,
seconds
darling.
on seeing the dentist, starting now.
Seeing the dentist is nowhere near as frightening, I find, as hearing the dentist.
So Alan Cochrane was then speaker as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and, it's very interesting. There's 1 point separates all four of them. Alan Cochrane, Tony Hawks, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and Paul Merton in that order, in that ascending order. Tony, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the age of the dinosaur. 60 seconds starting now.
Few people would deny that the age of the dinosaur was a long time ago. Hang on, somebody does.
Nicholas Parsons. Oh, I'm sorry, they've turned.
Whatever happens now, you're not going to get a point for that. And so, an incorrect challenge. Tony, you have another point. You have 54 seconds. The age of the dinosaur starting now.
We went on a school trip to the Natural History Museum in London, and there was a dinosaur as we walked in. The bones thereof, you must understand, not the moving instrument of the animal itself, obviously. And I was amazed to think that something that size only ate vegetables. This is what we were told by the man in the outfit who I assumed was working there. I took him, shook him by the head, but that's another story. The Age of the Dinosaur is also a comic book which you can buy if you go into a shop which is fictional, which is something that I often do of a week.
Alan, you challenge first.
Well, I think deviation. He's in a fictional shop, surely. Surely he's clutching at straws now. If he's often in a fictional shop, it's not the age of the dinosaur, which is the subject.
The age of the dinosaur, Alan, is with you because you've got him with the correct challenge. 19 seconds available starting now.
27 is the age of the dinosaur that I found in the bottom of my garden. I don't know what it was doing there. It had dug and dug and dug and then... Oh, that's not going to work, is it? In fairness, it was one to dig, and it was two dogs that had come through the ground in the garden. But I see how the confusion has arisen.
And who was the first to challenge?
Oh, I think they all jumped on it, didn't they?
Tony,
Darling.
you came in first. What was your challenge?
My challenge was repetition of duck, Nicholas. Doug, Nicholas. Not duck.
Yes,
that would be an error.
Yeah. So you've got the age of the dinosaur, Tony. 11 seconds starting now.
The poor trembling caveman, the Tyrannosaurus Rex coming towards him. He only has a club to try and beat
Paul challenge.
Well, deviation, because humankind and dinosaurs did not inhabit the Earth at the same time. So a caveman would not have...
Did they really not?
No, not at all. No. The idea of a caveman trembling at the side of a Tyrannosaurus Rex...
Explain the Flintstones.
It's an animated cartoon which you'd be, you wouldn't really choose as photographic evidence.
No, I think you're right, actually.
I
Paul.
am, yeah.
So, right, you've got the subject of the age of the dinosaur, and 5 seconds to go, starting now.
As you looked up into those pagan skies, you realised that one...
Right, so Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle weighing gain. That extra point is all very, very close. In ascending order, on 1 point separating them, is Alan Cochrane, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Tony Hawks, and Paul Merton. Alan, I think you should begin the next round. The subject is, what makes me furious? There are 60 seconds starting now.
Repeatedly saying the word dog during the game just a minute is one of the things that makes me furious. But many other things make me furious.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of things.
Yes, it's not in the title. You can repeat the
infuriated.
words in the title. So what makes me furious, Tony, after a correct challenge, and 52 seconds starting now.
There is a huge, long list. I can't go into it all now, but remote controls on televisions are totally unnecessary. If you cannot...
Alan challenge.
They're not, because if the telly hasn't got buttons, you really need the remote control.
I think you do. I mean,
Yeah.
some televisions, I get them in hotels. You can't work them at all.
And
So,
you need
Alan,
a remote control to watch the special movies, don't you, Nicholas? That's what he's talking about.
I think you're wicked, and I thought you were my friend. Alan, 44 seconds still available. What makes me furious, starting now?
What makes me furious are people who drive with no respect for the three-lane motorway. People who make noises on...
And Tony and Kit, their lights came on together, so the benefit of that goes to Tony because you're over there. Tony, what was it?
I like the thinking behind that. Because I'm over there. Repetition of people.
Yes, that's right. It was. And there are 38 seconds. What makes me furious, Tony, starting now.
That road sign, which is a picture of two old people stooping with sticks, and then there aren't any around, and I'm furious to the point...
Alan Challenge.
Isn't that because they've died? You're angry at death of old people there. That seems...
I don't see your logic, Alan. What is it, sir?
Well...
And
to be honest, I thought if I did any interruption, I'd just get the point because I was over here.
Right, well, we give you a bonus point for that last remark. We've got a round of applause from the audience. Tony, you get a point because you were interrupted. You keep the subject. What makes me furious? And there are 29 seconds available starting now.
Sometimes I'll buy a pair of shoes on a whim and they'll be too small and I'll take them and they'll pinch me.
Kit Challenge.
There's lots of and aisles, then. Are we being too picky?
Yes, you are, but it doesn't really matter. It's correct, isn't it? And ours, and ours, and ours. Right. So, I don't know what the audience know we're talking about, but it doesn't really matter. Kit, 24 seconds still available. What makes me furious starting now?
What makes me furious are the yawning pauses on Saturday evening television talent shows before they announce who has been voted off. If 15 million people are watching, that means 12 years has been wasted over a 20-second pause. And Carl Orff's Carmine Burana comes on and he's still in copyright, so it makes me furious he's getting all those royalties when it should be Verdi or...
Oh, Paul Challenge.
Well, he's dead, isn't he? So he's not getting the royalties. Deviation.
Well, his estate gets the royalties.
Yeah, but he doesn't get the royalties, Nicholas.
Well, they go to him.
Nicholas, he doesn't get the royalties.
You mean that...
He doesn't turn up on a Friday. He doesn't get a pay packet.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't physically.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't get the royalties.
If you want to be logic, the royalties go to him and they're passed into his estate.
Yes, that's right, yes.
So
he doesn't get the royalties.
No, but colloquially saying he gets the royalties. So you're giving me an impossible dilemma.
No, it's not impossible.
I think if there's only half a second to go anyway, see, I think what we should do, we should give the benefit of the doubt to Will at the back there.
Yes! Excellent decision, Chairman.
And Paul gets the point because he was speaking when the whistle should have gone. No, he wasn't speaking when the whistle should have gone, right. And so that was the end of that round. Oh, I've just been told we have no more time to play Just a Minute. Oh, you are a lovely audience. Oh, what a fair result.
What did Will get?
We'll come to that in a moment. Because we have an interesting result. We have two people in second place, equal, Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Alun Cochrane.
Lovely.
And 3 points ahead, equal, Tony Hawks and Paul Merton. So we say they are joint winners this week, but we have in a fourth place, the one and only at the back, Will! So, Will, you've got your round of applause, but congratulations to our joint winners, Tony Hawks and Paul Merton. Thank you. I do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and we want to tune in again next time. It just remains me to say one final thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Alun Cochrane, and Tony Hawks. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle most delicately after the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to the creator of this game, Ian Messiter, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in Salford Quays and the Lowry Theatre who've cheered us on our way. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the panel, goodbye. Thank you for tuning in. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four talented, diverse and enterprising personalities who this week are going to play the show. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth, and seated on my left, Sheena Hancock and Ian Macmillan. Please welcome all four of them. Thank you. And beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score, blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the British Library, that august place just off Marylebone Road in the heart of London. And we have a very distinguished intellectual audience in front of us. Ready to go. And also, I need to tell you that the British Library, I've got an exhibition on called Evolving Language, and so celebrating the English language. And so it's very apt we should be here in the British Library during this particular festival. And it's very apt that the first subject on the card is the British Library. So, Paul, would you begin the show and take this subject? And your time starts now.
Ah, the British Library. Yes, I've been well acquainted with the British Library ever since I first walked into it some 25 minutes ago. And it's situated off the Euston Road here. And it seems to me, by chatting to other people around and asking what the purpose was of the British Library and what function it fulfills, is it contains every single book ever published. And you can simply go up to a gentleman and ask...
Sheena Hancock.
Oh. Sheena Hancock.
So,
Do you mean me?
no, I think Sheila Honkack is rather
nice
attractive.
variation.
It's a nice variation.
Yeah.
But Sheila, you challenged first. What was your challenge?
Well, it's not strictly speaking true, is it? Because they're not all stored, I believe, in this building.
Oh, really?
There's
Actually,
some of them stored
Sheila,
in...
I can verify that you had a correct challenge because there's a certain author, Edward Lear, I do a whole programme about him, and there is no copy of his first folio edition of his Book of Nonsense anywhere in the world, not even here. They failed to pick one up and restore it. So you got a correct challenge.
Well, for the wrong reason, though. I didn't know about Lear and his problems.
No, a lot of people did.
But Edward Lear would have loved your pronunciation of Sheila's name.
He would, yes.
He'd have made a whole poem.
Exactly.
Of course, they're right.
Exactly.
So, Sheila Honkack,
That is going to be my name from now on, I promise.
you have a correct challenge. You have 38 seconds. Tell us something about the British Library, starting now.
It's built out of red brick, which synchronises beautifully with the St Pancras station next door, which is now being converted into flats. It does have red...
Ian challenged.
That can't be right, because I got a train from there. And there was nobody in there. There was nobody sat on a settee watching the television. It appeared to be a station where I got on a train to a destination known as Sheffield.
A bit of it is, but...
The hotel's been converted into flats, but the station is,
Oh, right.
is fine. Yeah.
Oh, right.
No,
you're
the
right.
station's there.
The station's still there,
Yes.
but the original building's been converted into flats.
Yeah.
So I think technically Sheila was correct.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Ian, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt
Thank
and
you.
say you have a correct challenge. You have a point, of course, and 29 seconds available. The British Library is starting now.
The first time I came to the British Library, it had been raining like tonight, and I was so excited to come to the British Library that I ran across the opening and I slipped on the ice.
Sheila challenged.
He's doing a few pauses.
I know he is.
I ran. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
We poets call that enjambment.
I know.
It's sort of poetic license and theatrical...
All right.
No, but Sheila, you're correct. They were pauses. And you let the first one go, and you picked him up on the second one,
That's
presumably.
true. That's true.
So, Sheila, correct challenge. 19 seconds. You tell us more about the British Library starting now.
It's quite difficult to get into it because there's ever so many gates and it is confusing. However, the people that work here are absolutely delightful. When I was young, I tried to come and do some study here.
Giles challenge.
You are still young.
So let me be generous and say, Giles, I give you a bonus point for gallantry.
Give him 10. Give him 10.
But it's one of the new innovations I've introduced. But Sheila, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that. You keep the subject. 8 seconds available. The British Library is starting now.
I wasn't allowed in because I didn't...
Oh, Giles challenge.
Wasn't allowed twice.
You were allowed. You were allowed in
right.
before.
Yeah.
Yes, you know. So Giles, you've got a correct challenge now, and you have 7 seconds on the British Library starting now.
In the old reading room of the British Library,
Ian challenged.
Giles, you're really young.
How big's the fiction department here?
Ian, it was a good attempt to get a point for gallantry, but it doesn't apply when you're doing it to your own sex.
Unless you're claiming deviation as the reason.
So, Giles, I'm going to call it an incorrect challenge and say you've got 6 seconds on the British Library, starting now.
The wonderful echo that there is in that extraordinary room was a way of awakening the old dozing...
So at the end of that round, Giles Brandreth got a number of points, including one for speaking as the whistle went, and he's leapt forward. Sheena Hancock follows you, Ian's there, and Paul is yet to score, but has plenty of time. Giles, will you begin the next round? And the subject is, this is a nice one, my school crush. You see, you got an immediate reaction from the audience. She might actually be in the audience, we don't know. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
If only I'd been to school with Sheila Honker. As it is, I was brought up with Ed Balls' older sister, who gloried in the name of Ophelia, but alas did not live up to her verbal reputation. In fact, in my same class was the lovely Anne Widdicombe.
Sheila challenged. Sheila, you challenged.
Did you say class before?
No.
No? All right. Go on.
No, it was a good attempt, Sheila, but it wasn't correct. Sorry. So, Giles, another incorrect challenge. Another point to you. My school crush, starting now.
The little girl who later became a Conservative Member of Parliament was then so dainty on her toes. The aspiring...
Yes, Paul.
Hesitation.
I would call that hesitation, Paul, and you have 35 seconds. Tell us something about my school crush, starting now.
Well, I went to an all-boys school, but I remember particularly one boy whose name was James, who had a particularly... I better stop there. I better stop there. I don't want to identify him. Or do I?
But it was Sheila challenged you before you...
Well, I was stopping him before he altered his whole reputation.
So
I know it was hesitation.
It was, right. So, Sheila, you got the subject. 27 seconds, my school crush, starting now.
When I was at Dartford Grammar School, we had what is called the Science Sixths, which was a group of boys that used to come over and use our laboratories. And one of them...
Ian challenge.
Is that a euphemism?
No.
When you're a wordsmith, it's amazing what you can achieve, isn't it? Right. Ian, I think the audience enjoyed that interruption so much, I'm going to give you a bonus point for that.
Thank you.
But Sheila was interrupted, so she keeps the subject. 19 seconds, my school crush, starting now.
One of them was called Alun Coast, and he was like a Greek god.
Giles challenged.
I knew him. He was covered in pimples.
So what's your challenge?
He might be the god of acne.
Deviation. I can't imagine somebody as lovely as Sheila fancying this boy who was just a spotty...
You didn't know him. You weren't at the same school. You've established that.
And I was covered in acne then, too.
Yeah.
He might have had a certain charm.
Incorrect challenge, Giles. 14 seconds still available, Sheila. My school crush, starting now.
I did everything in my power to attract his attention, but he took no notice of me whatsoever until I was in the school play. I did St. Joan, and the next day he asked me to go to the school dance, and I thought...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of school.
No, it's on the card.
Oh, is it?
In my school crush.
Oh, well, I should have written that down, shouldn't I?
Right. Gosh, Sheila, you've been challenged with only 1 second to go. Ooh. So you have 1 second on my school crush, starting now.
My school crush.
So my school crush took Sheila from a strong second place right into a commanding lead. And she's 4 or 5 points ahead of all the others. Oh. Ian, here's an interesting subject. Forgetting names. It comes to a lot of people as you get older. And, or you get them muddled. Right, Ian McMillan, the subject is forgetting names. 60 seconds, starting now.
Thank you, Stephen. I find that when I forget names, the best thing is the attack is the best method of defence. Because if you see somebody walking down the street and you think, I don't know who you are, you just say, hello, Frank. And if that's not their name, they'll perhaps think that it is.
A Giles challenge.
I think the word is enjambement.
Yes, it was. A little pause, a little pause.
There was a little pause.
Oh, I see.
No,
Yes,
mine were about custard.
we're not playing this in French, John.
No, I know, but it was just that Ian referred to that as being his euphemism for Paul's.
Entrechat or
That's right.
something.
Yes, but I don't think a French word for Paul's is useful in this. It's going to be very confusing.
Let me cut to the chase. Hesitation.
That's right.
Giles, you have a correct challenge. You have 46 seconds for getting names starting now.
I never forget a face, but I will make an exception in your case. Said Harpo Marx or was it Groucho?
Paul challenge.
Well, it was Groucho because Harpo never spoke.
Well
You
done,
clearly
Paul.
didn't know him on a one-to-one basis. He was quite chatty at home over the sandwiches.
No, but Paul, we associate Harper with not speaking, so 40 seconds are available. You tell us something about forgetting names starting now.
It does seem to become a problem as you get older. It has been suggested that there are various ways to remember names. For example, if I look at Giles Brandreth, I think of some mental image and I associate with that him forever. So oh my God. Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Giles, you challenged.
Yes, indeed. There was clear deviation there that led to hesitation.
Yes.
And I don't want repetition. That's the long and the
have
short of
one
the
of
man.
them. And you have 26 seconds for getting names starting now.
As you may know, I'm very fond of acronyms, my favourite being the one DAMN, which stands for Mothers Against Dyslexia. But I'm also partial to the acronym that says CRAFT, C-R-A-F-T.
Ian challenged, right?
Yes.
Repetition of acronym.
Correct.
Yes. So, Ian, you've got a correct challenge. 15 seconds for getting names starting now.
So if you go up to somebody and say, hello, Frank, have you said Frank?
Of all the first names in the English language, you had to pick the one you'd used before.
But this was spelt with a Q.
Doesn't matter, it's what they hear. So, Paul, you challenge first. I think we know the
Repetition. Nice to hear from Frank again. He's a bit of an old friend, really.
There are 12 seconds available, Paul, for getting names starting now.
If you take a letter from an individual's name and think to yourself, OK, his first initials are GW, you think to yourself, I shall make that giraffe washroom every time.
Giles challenge.
Think twice.
Oh, yes.
Nobody else seems to be aware of it.
No.
It's what that was a recognition amongst the audience, I think. So, Giles, another correct challenge, and you've got 1 second to go. A different kind of and it's forgetting names starting now.
Can't remember a flipping thing.
So at the end of that round, Giles Brandreth got a number of points, including one for speaking as the whistle went, and he's leapt forward. He's just one ahead of Sheila Hancock, and then comes Paul Merton and Ian McMillan in equals in third place. Sheila, would you begin the next round? A nice one. Going to the hairdressers. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Until recently, I've hated going to the hairdressers because the noise of the music and the voices and the screaming, I can't bear it. So
Ian Chalmers.
You sure this is a
This isn't
hairdresser?
hairdressers, is it? This must be somewhere else.
Absolutely, the people are screaming orders and shouting at one another.
I thought you meant screaming in pain.
No, screaming out.
Sorry,
Have
incorrect.
you never had your eyebrows plucked?
Only for pleasure.
They weren't screaming in pain. They were just joyous screams, I suppose. But Sheila, an incorrect challenge. So Sheila's still got the subject. Another point to her, of course. Going to the hairdressers, Sheila. Oh, and there are 50 seconds starting now.
I particularly can't bear the questions that the hairdressers ask you, like, are you going on holiday this year? I'm an actress. I don't do that. If I'm leisure, it means I'm out of work and worried. Also, what are you going to do at the weekend? Well, I'm going to do 2 shows on Saturday, a matinee or an evening performance, and on Sunday I'll crash out. Not the most exciting life. However, hairdressers have a wonderful life. Vidal Sassoon.
Paul challenge.
We had 2 lives quite quickly.
Yes, talking about their life before.
Yeah.
So,
And
Paul,
hairdressers
well
as well.
listened. You've got the subject, you've got a point, and you've got going to the hairdressers starting now.
I remember going to the hairdresser some time ago, back in about 1991, and the woman I was with in my life then had been to that previous establishment before me, and as I sat down...
Sheila challenge.
1991 to 19.
19. No, 19.
No. I'm dead desperate to win because I was so awful last time. I'm trying to justify my existence.
You're still in the lead with Giles.
Forgive me.
Don't worry. Don't get too tense about it, and or you will lose. And
I can't be last again. I can't.
You can. No, right, Paul, an incorrect challenge. 16 seconds available. Going to the hairdressers, starting now.
Your girlfriend's right, you haven't got a flat head. But of course, that would have made more sense if it had been joined up to the previous bit when I was enunciating on this subject. But of course, that is the problem.
Giles' challenge.
Two of courses.
Yes, there were, yeah.
There were 2 of courses, yes. And Giles got another point. He's got the subject. And there are 7 seconds going to the hairdressers, starting now.
I could never understand why my mother spent so much money going to the hairdressers. It is a scandal. When I go to the hairdressers...
And Paul challenge.
Deviation, he said, when I go to the hairdressers. There's hardly any hair at all.
If you'd allowed me to finish the sentence, I was going to say, I am turned away.
Well, I'm sure they'd offer you a quick polish, but other than that...
So what's your challenge within the rules of justice?
Deviation. He doesn't need a hairdresser. Look at him.
I can see from here that the back of his neck has been cleaned, and with the clippers.
Yes.
So perhaps he does go to the hairdresser.
Maybe you should give him the benefit of the doubt.
He's got the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, is he? Oh,
yes.
You better give it... Oh.
And he's got a point and the subject, and 1 second to go, Giles. Again, going to the hairdressers, starting now.
How do you want your hair cut? In silence?
So Giles Brandreth was again speaking as a whistle when again that extra point, and others in the round. He's moved forward now. He's just ahead of Sheena Hancock and a few more ahead of Paul Merton and Ian Macmillan. Giles, I think you should take the next round. The subject is my accent. Tell us something about my accent in this game, starting now.
To be or not, that is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. I speak in this way, with this particular accent, because of the way I was reared, brought up...
Sheena Hancock challenge.
2 ways.
Oh,
2 ways, yes.
Yes, I've often been accused of being Tommy 2 ways.
Mainly by yourself, to be honest.
Yes, I out myself on a regular basis, and yet no one shows any interest. They occasionally cross to the other side of the road, but that's about all I get.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's quite enough for this show, Giles.
It's a shame.
46 seconds, Sheila. My accent starting now.
This accent I have was very carefully acquired in 2 years at RADA. I started with a Cockney accent, spent all the time with a tooth prop in my mouth, trying to open up my
Ian
mouth.
challenge.
What's a tooth prop?
Yeah.
Well...
Is it like a toothpick? With
no,
pretensions?
If you like, I'll use up some of my minute describing it. I'm not going to waste it on you now.
Thank you.
Yes, Ian, it's much better to challenge with some thought in mind rather than to ask a question.
But you see, we're in a library.
Yes.
It's a kind of hall of knowledge where you learn things.
Yes, but it's not just a minute, though, is it? Doesn't have... Anyway, Sheila, incorrect challenge, 35 seconds, my accent starting now.
The said object is a little bit of wood stuck between your teeth in order to make...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of teeth.
Tooth before, wasn't it?
No teeth.
Teeth, was it? I don't know.
Well, I agree, maybe.
I thought it was tooth thing.
Oh, maybe it was.
It was tooth before.
Tooth before, then
Was it?
teeth. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Right, well, all listened.
Okay. It's going to be on my conscience that I probably did say teeth and I have no memory of it.
Don't
However,
worry, I have no memory of it either.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Sheila, because you say you don't
Okay.
often get it. And...
I get it quite often, even now.
And we're delighted to know it, and I'm glad you called. 30 seconds are still available, Sheila. My accent starting now.
I ended up speaking received pronunciation, which is what you have to do when you go to the said teach you.
Paul challenged.
Hesitation, sir.
That was a hesitation, yes.
Yeah, it was.
My accent is with you, Paul. That's the subject. 23 seconds, starting now.
Having spent 15 years as the Duke of Argyll, you would wonder where my accent came from. Well, my family goes back many years over the centuries. Indeed, I can even place my ancestors as late as 1562, which is a terrible way of speaking. And actually, my real accent, somebody once said to me on Radio 4 about 1983, with a voice like that, you'll never appear on this particular station. And he was right.
Right. I've just heard we're moving into the final round. It doesn't very much reaction, did it, really? So as we move into the final round, Ian McMillan, who hasn't played the game quite as often as the others, is trailing a little in fourth place. But the other three, very close out in the lead. Paul is on 14, Charles at 15, and Sheila's on 15. And Sheila, it's all getting very dramatic. I'm illustrating it in my voice. I don't know what. Anyway, Sheila, we'd like you to start the round. It is nostalgia. Tell us something about nostalgia in this game, starting now.
I'm not a great one for nostalgia. When the past is over, for me it's finished. I like to live in the present. And I often think that we mistake the past.
Giles.
Repetition of past.
Yes, I hadn't even said it when you buzzed.
I was anticipating.
Yes, you were.
But she did say it. Giles, benefit of the doubt. 50 seconds. Nostalgia, starting now.
Ducking for apples, give or take a consonant or two, that was always my favourite childhood game. Parlour entertainment of every kind.
Paul's challenger.
It was Dorothy Parker's as well.
Mm-hmm.
The ducking for apples joke's the Dorothy Parker one, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I was going to give credit.
Were you?
Because I was coming on to say that my favourite parlour game was quotations. She would have got a credit, and if you'd been in the book, you'd have got a credit too.
Yes.
So what was your challenge, Paul?
Oh, I suppose it was blatant plagiarism, really, but that's not a challenge, is
and
it?
that's not one of the challenges in the rules for just a minute.
Otherwise, he'd never say anything, would he?
Yeah. I don't think I give bonus points for insults.
Funnily enough, I'm quite content with that one.
So, but you did get a very nice reaction from it. So
yes, yeah.
The audience enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
So we give you a bonus point for that, shall we? Giles gets a point because he was interrupted. He keeps the subject of nostalgia, and the 43 seconds are starting now.
Rise above it, said Noel Card when faced with impertinent young comedians.
He's doing it again. He's quoting other people. Rise above it, said Noel Coward. I mean, what does Giles think we as a nation care? Not because he's got Ned Sherrin's theatrical quotations book at home.
But he can still say rise above it and say who said it first.
Yes, he can. I think I probably fell into a trap there. I feel better for it, though.
40 seconds, Giles. Still with you. Nostalgia, starting now.
Don't quote me, but my favourite game as a child...
Didn't he talk about quote-unquote?
No, that was outside the game.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yes. They have talked an awful lot the other side of the room, I must say. But he didn't use quote-unquote in the actual game.
Oh, I see.
So, bad luck. You're just helping him to get into the lead there, right?
No.
So, Giles has got another point. He has nostalgia still. And there are 36 seconds starting now.
Among the things that money can't buy is that itself. A penny, a farthing, a shilling. These were the terms of finance that we used during my childhood.
Lots of repetitions of a penny, a farthing, a shilling.
Yes, we might have... No.
But to be fair, it was his own work.
How little you know it was the beginning of a song by Lionel Bart.
It doesn't matter, Giles. I mean, you can let 2 go, but 3 no. That is definitely repetition.
Right. Oh,
so,
God.
Sheila, yes, you have a correct challenge. 28 seconds. Nostalgia starting now.
There is a wonderful book called Remembrance of Times Past, where the gentleman remembers... I know, I didn't repeat. I was going to say remembers, but I hesitated because I thought I was going to repeat.
Exactly. It often happens in this game. We're getting towards the end. It's all going very tense. You can feel the tension up here on the stage, as in amongst the audience there. Right, Giles, you have incorrect challenge. You've still got another point, and you have nostalgia, and you have 21 seconds starting now.
Never in the field of human conflict. There's so much unfairness to be meted out in such a game as this. I loved as a child to listen to the speeches of Sir Winston Churchill, one of the great orators...
Paul Towers.
Oh, I don't know. Deviation, I think, because that wasn't one of Winston Churchill's speeches.
Yes.
He never said that.
No, he didn't
He
use
said
those
something
actual
similar.
words.
Didn't say those words, did he?
Yeah, no.
No.
So
Deviation.
If he hadn't qualified his remarks by saying one of his speeches...
Yes.
Because it wasn't one of his speeches.
It wasn't, no.
Whose speech was it then?
Well,
it
was your own creation. Now, isn't that exciting?
I don't think it was.
Never in the world of human conflict.
Never in the field of human conflict has so much been... Yes.
No, you didn't. You said game.
Well, of course, I couldn't repeat anything, and...
He's falling apart. He's falling apart.
I don't think...
You're trying to justify something which is impossible, Giles.
I don't want to do that.
No. And you've never tried to do it before,
I
have
would
you?
never try to do that, Nicholas.
Paul has a correct challenge. He has 10 seconds on nostalgia, starting now.
Nostalgia is stuff you look back on and think, I was younger then. Perhaps those programmes that made me laugh when I was in my teens, maybe they're not as funny as I...
Well, as I said, this to be the last round, and it is now the end of the last round. So let me give you the final score. Ian McMillan, who hasn't played the game as much as before, but Ian, it's the value that people give that's so important.
I think so.
And we loved having you, and you did very well, and you did finish in a very strong 4th place.
Good.
And as I've often said, in this game, you know, the points are less important than the contributions. And they all have fun. And out in the lead, only 1 point separating each of them in ascending or descending order are Sheila Hancock, Giles Brandreth and Paul Merton. And I think it would be very fair to say they are the 3 equal winners this week. So we do hope you have enjoyed this particular edition of Just a Minute. And I only have to thank our 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Giles Brandreth, Sheila Hancock and Ian McMillan. And also I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle beautifully when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we are indebted to this lovely audience here in the theatre of the British Library, who've enjoyed themselves, we think, cheered us on our way magnificently. So from this lovely audience, from the panel, and from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Thank you for tuning in, but tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 talented, exciting, humorous performers who are going to show their dexterity with words and language as they speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Kevin Eldon, and seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary. Please welcome all 4 of them. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House in the centre of London, W1. And we have a lovely audience in front of us, eager to get going. So we'll begin the show with Sue Perkins. Sue, I don't know what's going to happen with this subject. My relationship with the chairman. 60 seconds starting now.
The first time I met Nicholas was in a dimly lit basement. He said, "Call me Doris." I said, "I shall." He had delusions of grandeur, standing there as he was in 6-inch heels and a charming basque, which looked a little second-hand, but nonetheless sat up nicely around his milky white nipples.
I've got that picture in my head now. I was trying to stop a deviation. You haven't got milky... Deviation. I don't believe that's the first time she met you, is it, Nicholas?
She's never met me like that.
Really?
Oh, come now, everyone calls you albino hooters.
Sue, you'll say anything to get
Albino hooters? The finest Mexican guitarist in Basildon.
Sue, you are incorrigible. You'll say anything to get a laugh, and I think I'm sufficiently...
Just telling the truth, Nicholas, it's time it came out.
Now, I'm a sufficiently good sport to take it all, so there we are. But, Paul, it was deviation of a very serious nature. So you've got a point for a correct challenge, and you have 40 seconds. My relationship with the chairman starting now.
Well, the blood tests say father.
It was beautiful, and then there was a hesitation.
I know, he was playing for the laugh, right. You can have him for deviation as well.
Well, I mean, the test result, it's proven now, Nicholas.
Right.
It's time you stop denying it.
Well, I'd be very happy to own Paul as my son.
Yes. Oh, don't. I'm willing.
Can I express an opinion myself?
It's not the Jeremy Kyle show, is it?
I'd like to see that edition, though.
Sorry, Sue. You had a correct challenge, so you get a point for that, and it's still my relationship with the chairman. Do watch it, please. 36 seconds starting now.
It was Dorking, my first ever Just a Minute, and I was terrified. It appeared there was something in excess of 30,000 people there. I'm adjusting.
Julian, your challenge.
Well, she's not mentioning her relationship with the chairman. She's talking about Dorking.
I know. Yes, I swear you were going to say that was the first time you played Just a Minute, and that was where your relationship began. I assume that's what she was going to say, but
yes.
She didn't actually say it, did she?
No, it's a long wait.
So the benefit of the doubt to you, Julian.
Thank you.
Though I think I knew what she was going to say, because I was there in Dorking, and...
Yes, that's where I first met you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But you didn't actually establish it with this.
No, I was just setting the scene. Next time, if I get another chance, I'm going to go, Mr. Dorking, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Julian, correct challenge. 27 seconds. My relationship with the chairman starting now.
My relationship with Nicholas Parsons is entirely businesslike and above board. We've been charming with each other. Nicholas smiles.
Paul challenge.
A repetition of Nicholas, I'm afraid.
Yes, unfortunately. Mind you can't repeat it too often in this
No.
game. No. 11 seconds, Paul. The correct challenge. My relationship with the chairman starting now.
When I was at school, I used to admire watching him on the Benny Hill show and also with Arthur Haynes. And he was a perfect straight man for those two comedians. And I am so thrilled and privileged to be able to say now, before the whistle goes, I know he's trying to stop it going, but I don't want to stop it going. Nicholas Parsons is a true gentleman and I love him dearly.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, and at the end of that round, he's in the lead. Julian, will you begin the next round? The ultimate road trip. 60 seconds starting now.
The ultimate road trip for me took place quite recently, where I drove from London to Monte Carlo with Jodie Kidd as my passenger on board a vintage Bentley. The only drawback was that my companion liked to drive at 140 miles an hour while eating a baguette and making a phone call. I used to recite my Hail Marys and Our Fathers, Glory Bees, which I learnt at Catholic school. However, the ultimate...
Paul challenge.
There was a pause there.
Oh, that was a dramatic effect.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Right. 36 seconds, Paul. The ultimate road trip starting now.
The recent ultimate road trip.
Went a little bit Irish there.
Have you had a stroke?
No, but I can move my chair nearer if you want.
Can we turn the
I should
lights out?
explain to our listeners. That's exactly what Paul has done. He's moved a bit nearer to Julian. Julian, your challenge.
It was a hesitation.
What was?
Youth grinding to a halt, stopping speaking.
You made a vocal...
A strange guttural noise.
Hiccup.
Yes.
Which we interpret as hesitation.
Really?
So Julian has got 34 seconds to continue with the ultimate road trip starting now.
I'd like to go home in about half an hour. For me, that would be the ultimate road trip. There's something I particularly want to see on Channel 4 at 10 o'clock this evening involving £1 million drop.
Sue challenge.
Deviation. He's discussing his televisual... this is a radio medium, but he's discussing what he's going to do after the show.
Well, why couldn't he?
I don't know. I just thought maybe you'd give me the benefit of the doubt, Nicholas.
No, you're playing this audience very well, Sue, but no, he's entitled to go home after the show and watch television if he wants to. There's nothing devious in that. And it depends when he's watching, of course, I suppose. No, an incorrect challenge, Julian. Another point to you. 21 seconds, the ultimate road trip starting now.
The ultimate road trip from the BBC to my home.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of B.
Yeah. It happens. Correct challenge, Paul. Well, listen. And the ultimate road trip is with you, Paul. 18 seconds starting now.
From Aberdeen to Inverness at the top of Scotland was a trip I recently underwent. It was an absolutely wonderful day. And it's a new, fresh road there, gliding over the hills and across and through the mountains. And the scenery was breathtaking. And every time you turned a tight corner, there...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's increased his lead at the end of the round. Julian's in second place then, Sue Perkins and Kevin Eldon. And Kevin, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is how to tell a story. There are 60 seconds as always, and you start now.
Well, the best way to tell a story is to begin by really taking your voice down so that you draw the listener in. This piques their attention and they think to themselves, oh, there might be something quite mysterious and fascinating here. I better draw a bit closer and cock an ear. Then, when you've got them ensnared, you take everybody involved off onto a flight of imagination. You can sometimes vary your tone so it doesn't get boring, but not too high, otherwise you'll crack some glasses and some dogs will be upset. At all costs, you must have a good end of the story, or denouement, as it's called in classical terms, where the listener is fascinated by what's happened and completely surprised by the turn of events as they have evolved, and are filled with emotions that move them to go to other areas of their lives and say, I've heard the most wonderful tale today. It was narrated in such a manner as I've never heard before and will always...
So, Kevin Eldon, who began with a subject and finished with a subject. It doesn't often happen, and Kevin has only played the game once before. And you fully deserve not only the point for speaking as the whistle went, but a bonus point for not being interrupted or coming in there. So, at the end of that round, you've got 2 points. And you're in third place now, ahead of Sue Perkins. Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. The country life. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Well, there's a couple of old things I suppose you ought to know about the country. When you walk in the boys to kill the cows, you ought to say to yourself, I wonder which one of them might be the...
Who buzzed? Who buzzed then?
Sue Perkins has buzzed you.
Repetition of cliché.
Cliché?
No, there was a...
There's
a hower. There was a hower. So repetition of hower.
I know. Well, I have to make judgment. No, Sue, benefit of the doubt, yes. You have the country life now, and you have 53 seconds starting now.
I love the rural idyll, the tranquility and silence of the countryside, punctuated only by somebody who votes for Nigel.
Paul challenge.
Was there a slight hesitation there?
No, I don't think so.
No, okay.
No. So, incorrect challenge, Sue.
Okay.
Another point to you. 45 seconds, the country life, starting now.
The stillness broken only by members of UKIP canvassing at the door, desperate that nobody other than farmers should permeate their small, closed world. I love nature, to be out in it, to see cows mooing. That's the only sound they make, really. It's impossible to do an impression of a cow without invoking that...
Julian challenge.
Oh, I think it's wrong. cows. And
Yeah,
then
she said cows the first
Yeah.
time, and it was a cow the second time.
Yeah,
Okay.
25 seconds. Another point to you, Sue. Incorrect. The country life starting now.
I feel lazy if I don't churn my own butter in the countryside, but I'm not very wise as to how to do this. Milk, I imagine, would be the best thing. Also, there's an idea if you're not growing vegetables, you're somehow remiss. Everything is slower, a different pace. Time to contemplate the wider things, such as, why am I here? Why do I have no television reception?
Julian,
Repetition of.
there were too many
why.
Ys. So, Julian, you have a correct challenge. 4 seconds. The country life, Julian, starting now.
I've got a small holding with ducks and chickens and dogs.
So Julian Clary was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now 1 point behind our leader, Paul Merton, then Sue Perkins and Kevin Eldon in that order. Sue, we'd like you to begin the next round. Determinism. I'm sure we all know about that, but will you talk on that subject starting now?
Determinism is a philosophical principle whereby an event is causally determined by a series of events that have gone before. For instance, were I to deviate, repeat, or any other infringement to the rules of just a minute, I could quite happily say the reason for this was not of my own free will, but of a selection of things that had happened in my none-too-distant past. I am merely a hostage, a soldier of fortune, operating as a pawn in the wider scheme of things, moved in a haphazard fashion by powers that way advance. No! That is determinism! It was meant to be, I submit.
And you went for 38 seconds on determinism. That's not bad, is it?
Very good.
No. But Julian, you challenged first. What was it?
Repetition of way.
That's
way,
right.
yes.
She did say way. Right. Julian, there are 22 seconds available. Determinism starting now.
Determinism, I predict, means that someone's going to buzz very, very shortly, and this awful.
Paul challenged.
He's psychic. I think he was off the subject because he doesn't really know anything about determinism. So a deviation from the subject of determinism.
No, I wasn't.
No, it doesn't matter as long as you're saying.
Really?
You can still say that you don't know much about the subject, but still, you're obviously still talking about the subject.
Oh.
So, Julian, incorrect challenge. You have 17 seconds. Tell us more about determinism, starting now.
The difference between determinism and fatalism is not a subject for us to discuss this evening.
Sue challenge.
Hesitation, but
That was hesitation. So, determinism is back with you, Sue. 12 seconds, starting now.
Theological determinism means you believe a god or higher identity is in some way shaping your destiny. Whilst I'm not a religious person...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of destiny.
Yes, you talked about destiny before.
Well, I'm the David Icke of Radio 4.
So, Julian, well listened. You have 3 seconds only. Determinism. That's about all you need, isn't it? Starting now.
Determinism, it is a well-known fact.
I must say we haven't had abstruse subject like this before, but it's helping one or two of them. Julian, you were speaking, then it was all went, and with others in the round, you've now increased your position. You're ahead of Paul Merton, who's in second place, and then Sue Perkins, and then Kevin Eldon. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round, which is building bridges. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Before I became a camp comic and renowned homosexual, I had a day job building bridges.
Paul challenge.
You're homosexual.
I'm sorry to spring that on you.
Well, congratulations.
Paul, the audience enjoyed your reaction and your challenge, what you said, so we give you a bonus point for your interruption. But, Julian, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that, and you keep the subject with 55 seconds on building bridges, starting now.
I was building bridges over the Thames with Billy Boy and George. My companions, we all had hard hats, and I don't mind telling you, we had some very nice...
Billy Boy and George.
So what is your challenge, Sue?
Well, unfortunately, there was hesitation because Paul was laughing and he was distracted.
I don't think he was distracted enough, and he kept going in spite of all the distractions.
Yeah, let's
so
hear
benefit
about
of the doubt.
Billy Boy and George.
Let's hear more about Billy Boy and...
I've come to know him.
Yeah. Building bridges, Julian. 45 seconds, starting now.
I was the hod carrier, and it was my job to deliver the bricks to my compatriots. And on one occasion, I dropped one right in the middle of the river. It was awful. I said, "Don't worry, boys."
Sue Challenge.
Is it repetition of river, as in River Thames?
You mentioned the River Thames before.
I'm
so.
disappointed not to hear any more about Billy Boy and George.
Well, it would have been repetition.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you after.
Oh, OK.
Right. 32 seconds, Sue, on building bridges, starting now.
When you have had an argument with a friend, the best way forward is to build a bridge. It's very hard work, and it means there's no time for further disagreements, especially like me if you're a novice. I like to go to George and Billy Boy, who apparently are the world experts in building bridges. Unfortunately, they don't have their well-known hod carrier, because he's gone on to better things.
Julian Challenge.
I can give you their number if you like.
All right. Julian, we give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. Sue, you get a point for an interruption, and you keep the subject. 10 seconds. Building bridges, starting now.
Building bridges was of particular significance in the Millennium Bridge scenario, where it was so wobbly that those who created it had to go back to basics.
So Sue Perkins was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. She's moved forward. She's now in second place, ahead of Paul Merton and behind Julian Clary. And Kevin Eldon, we'd like you to begin the next round. 7 ways to say goodbye. 6 seconds if you wanted, starting now.
There are, of course, 7 ways to say goodbye. The first is the most conventional one, which is go up to the person you've been spending some time with and say ta-ta. The second, if you're shy...
Paul Challenge.
It's terrible, really, but ta-ta, you know, it's sort of... it is repetition.
No, it isn't. He said tat-tar, not tartar.
Oh, tat-tar. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no, it's not repetition, then.
No, it isn't repetition.
Oh,
No.
well done.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Inuit for see you at the next fish season.
Yeah. I know it well.
So, Kevin, you had an incorrect challenge. You get a point for that. 48 seconds available. 7 ways to say goodbye, starting now.
Another way to say goodbye is to be a bit flamboyant. Maybe poke yourself down a cannon, light the fuse, and as you're shooting through the window, say thanks for the quiche. The 4th is to do it in French, au revoir. 5th, German, auf Wiedersehen. 6th, Italian, arrivederci. 7th, why not go all round the room and kiss everybody on the lips and say, I bloody love you. Then maybe you could get something really wonderful going by doing a high-kicking dance routine out of the door so that the very last thing they see of you is a waving top hat. The main thing, though, is to make sure that everybody misses your presence and that you...
Julian Challenge.
Repetition of everybody.
You mentioned everybody before. Yes. That applause shows they do love your contributions, Kevin. But, Julian, it was a correct challenge. So you've got 6 seconds. 7 ways to say goodbye, starting now.
One of the 7 ways to say goodbye happened when I...
Right, Paul.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Paul.
Choked by the moment, I think.
3 seconds, Paul. 7 ways to say goodbye, starting now.
I said to Billy Boy and George, listen to me, I'm saying goodbye. And I was off.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point. He's moved forward. He's now in second place, 1 ahead of Sue Perkins and 3 or 4 behind Julian. Clary is still in the lead, and Kevin is also there, but his contribution is more important. Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is the most useless thing I've ever bought. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
The most useless thing I've ever bought. Well, I wonder what that could possibly be. I suppose it was that bicycle that I purchased when I was 10 years old. I didn't understand the concept of wheels. I didn't know.
Sue Challenge.
Repetition of I didn't.
Yes, and he realised that as he said it and put on a different voice. 47 seconds with you, Sue, having got another point. The most useless thing I've ever bought, starting now.
The most useless thing I ever bought was a home brewing kit. 16 months later, I had put yeast, sugar, water in a vat, and thence into the airing cupboard, to find it not only tasted appalling, but that cider was freely available at off-licences for a fraction of the price. It cost a monumental £35 for what essentially boiled down to basic storeroom ingredients and an urn. I have no idea what propelled me into the world of micro-brewing, but it was a very brief stint and one that I'm very glad to be shot of.
Julian Jarrett.
Very repeated.
Yes, you did say very before. And so, well, listen, Julian, another point to you. 12 seconds, the most useless thing I've ever bought, starting now.
The most useless thing I've ever bought was a pair of boxing gloves. I mean, I ask you. I don't get into scuffles very often. In the end, I used them for drinking sherry out of, which is delicious, and it keeps them toasty warm with just...
Right, so Paul, Julian was then speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point, has increased his lead. Fine, so, we've got another one of these difficult subjects. Dostoevsky.
What is this? Determinism and Dostoevsky, wait.
We look to you with your superior learning and say 60 seconds, starting now.
Dostoevsky is my favourite novelist. He was writing in Russia in the...
Kevin Challenge.
It's a deviation, isn't it? Are we talking about Colin Dostoevsky, the Garden Shed Supremo?
He's just opened up a new warehouse.
Yeah.
He has, yeah.
Fantastic prices.
Kevin, they loved your interruption, but she can go on any Dostoevsky. I don't know yours, but the Garden Shed guy. But no,
Colin,
no. She did establish within seconds of you challenging that it was the Russian. But you get a bonus point because they enjoyed your interruption. Enjoyed what you said, yes. Sue gets a point because she was interrupted, and there are 55 seconds. Dostoevsky, Sue, starting now.
He authored magnificent works of existentialism. Brothers Karamazov, Crime and Punishment. But what he really wanted to pen was Chicklet. Why does nobody see the market for handsome man with beautiful girl with big boobies? No one will ever buy this stuff, and yet I write, so I have to do this boring, whiny stuff about a pawnbroker who dies at the hand of somebody who wishes to better the universe. Oh, I hate determinism and free will. If it was just left to me, I would just do Mills and Boone. But nobody interested.
Paul Challenge.
Oh, I think I know. I was going to say hesitation, but I'm not sure there was, actually.
There wasn't hesitation.
No.
Could have had deviation.
Apart from
it's too late
the Russian language, in which case...
Still with you, Sue, having got an incorrect challenge. 23 seconds available. Dostoevsky starting now.
He had an incredibly miserable life, which may in some way show why I've said the word way repeatedly, which is a shame.
Julian Challenge.
Repetition.
Yes,
Way.
way.
Yeah.
So, Julian, another point to you. 16 seconds available. Dostoevsky starting now.
He was a bearded kind of a chap, I know that much. And bits of food, no doubt, got caught in this attachment to his face, and mice would live in there and nibble away at these little bits of bread and vodka. That was what they washed it down with.
So Julian Clary was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. His increased his lead at the end of the round, and we are moving into the final round. I'll give you the situation as we go into the final round. Kevin Eldon hasn't played the game very much. That wasn't patronising.
No, it's not.
No, because your contribution is brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and then Paul's trailing in third place for once, and just ahead of him is Stu Perkins, and out in the lead is still Julian Clary. And Julian, actually, we're back with you to begin. Getting rid of hiccups. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
There are a number of ways to get rid of hiccups. One is to hold your breath to the count of about 30. The other is to give someone to give you a shock. My mother used to come into the room wearing knickers on her head, and we'd all go, scream, how frightening. And once you'd recovered, you realise hiccups were a thing of the past.
Paul Challenge.
There was hesitation there.
There was a full stop.
You'd finished. I thought it was extremely informative.
Right.
And again, another one of those mental images that'll take a long time.
So 42 seconds are still available, Paul, for you, getting rid of hiccups, starting now.
There is a pretty good way of getting rid of hiccups, and that's to think or indeed describe what you had for breakfast out loud verbally. It doesn't sound as if it should work, but there's something about thinking around food that leads you to stop hiccuping. This was told to me by somebody called Andy Smart, who demonstrated it to me one day when I was suffering from this particular affliction, and it does
indeed work.
It does work.
Sue challenged.
Hesitation. What should I say?
Yes, hesitation as the word work came into his mind, and he didn't want to repeat it, so 19 seconds are available for you, Sue, on getting rid of hiccups, starting now.
The best cure I found for hiccups is once when I was afflicted, Julian's mother came in with a pair of knickers on her head. I have to say, that abiding image, whilst burning into my retina, also made me think slightly less of what was happening in my chest region. Another thing you could do is...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of thing.
Yeah, there was too many things there.
It's always the way.
Right, listen, Julian, nobody can catch you up now.
No.
And there are only 4 seconds to go.
Yeah.
And everybody's spoken on this subject except Kevin.
Yeah.
So can we give those 4 seconds to Kevin?
No, I'd be delighted.
And so we'd love to hear from you, Kevin, on this subject, so we all have a go at it. Getting rid of hiccups, and you've only got 4 seconds, starting now.
Wah! Doing that very quickly in front of somebody's face will shock them so much that their hiccups...
So Kevin Eldon was then speaking as the whistle waned. Gained that extra point. He still finished in 4th place, but it was a very magnificent one because he contributed so much with his humour. Paul was in 3rd place, just behind Sue Perkins, and they were all a few points behind Julian Clary. Congratulations to Julian Clary. So we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and we want you to tune in again next time you play the game. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Sue Perkins, Kevin Eldon, Paul Merton and Julian Clary. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She's kept that whistle going whenever the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. So please tune in the next time we all play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country but around the world, but to welcome 4 exciting, talented and creative personalities who are going to try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they're going to try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And those 4 are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth, and seated on my left, Sheila Hancock and Ian Macmillan. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score. She will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the theatre at the British Library in Euston Road or St Pancras. And we have a packed audience here. And of course, at the British Library, they're doing Evolving Language, which is a sort of exhibition they've got on. So I think it's very apt that we begin the show this week with the English language. And Sheila, we'd love you to start, and you have 60 seconds as always, and you begin now.
We are very blessed to have one of the best languages in the world. I often think when I'm wandering around London and you hear all sorts of accents, some Japanese.
Oh, Giles challenged.
I felt there was a bit of a hesitation.
There was a bit of a hesitation, yes.
A tiny bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Very early, but that's a challenge.
Very early, but nonetheless a correct challenge.
And nonetheless, I will be gracious and conceded.
Yes. But the unwritten rule, we do sometimes let them get underway, Giles. So anyway, 49 seconds. You came in after 11 seconds. Right. What about my arithmetic there? And, the subject is the English language, Giles, and 49 seconds starting now.
'Twas Brig and the slithy toes did gar and gimble.
Ian challenged.
That's not English, that's nonsense.
No, Ian, you're wrong. I mean, it is still English. If you write nonsense, I mean, Edward Lear as well as Lewis Carroll both wrote most wonderful nonsense verse. They used English to do it. They didn't create a different language.
I disagree. I think that in that piece he was creating a brand new language. Lewis Carroll was creating a new language.
Well, it was still English.
But I went in the shop the other day and said, "Can I have half a pound of Brillig?" And the man didn't know what I was on about because I wasn't speaking English. I think it's actually an invented language.
I was going to explain that 8 words from that poem have entered the English language. That was really to be the point.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think...
For what it's worth, and I like to quote Lewis Carroll as often as I can, and that was sort of one of my instincts.
Right. And you wrote...
Normally I prefer to quote Edward Lear because Nicholas likes Edward Lear better.
But you did a play about Lewis Carroll up at the Edinburgh Festival last Saturday, didn't
Sweet
you?
of you to mention it. Good.
Did anything happen to it? We can be so wicked in this show, you know. It's not, well, we're all friends, that's the reason we do it. I think I have to give the benefit of the doubt to Giles. And say, Giles, you have a point and 46 seconds, the English language, starting now.
Among those who have introduced words to the English language are indeed Lewis Carroll, Edward Lear and P.G. Wodehouse, who created a great vocabulary for our tongue only earlier in the last century. Myself, I have not actually contributed any novelty words. Ours is a mongrel tongue, coming from...
Ian, challenge.
I think that's right, because to brandrath is a word, isn't it? To brandrath is to speak articulately in quite a posh voice. So you say, I think
Isn't
he
you're
doing
making...
a bit of brandrath in over there? I heard somebody say that in Rotherham the other day.
I didn't know that Giles was known in Rotherham.
They speak of little...
Look, Ian, you haven't played the game as often as the others. You're trying very hard. So what I'm going to do is to say, yes, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, dear.
And... because you use the English language beautifully in your poetry, so you know a lot about it. But talk on the subject, 29 seconds, starting now.
What I love about the English language is that it can encompass me and Giles and all points in between, and that people can speak in different ways, so that I can speak like this. If you're from Lancashire, you can go, have you not got any of that? If you're from Derbyshire, you can call your house your arse. And that's all part of the English language. They say things like, I've just had double glazing fitted in my arse. I've repeated the word arse. But it's all part of the English language, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not in just a minute, because you repeated
No,
something.
repeat.
And Sheila came in first with her arse.
Repetition. Repetition of ours, I'm afraid, which you're not allowed.
9 seconds, the English language, starting now.
We have all manner of dialects. We have Ian's.
Paul Chance.
Repetition of we have.
You have, yes, yes, right.
Within
so, Paul,
seconds.
You're in on
I
the subject, so it is good in the first round, and there are 6 seconds to go, the English language, starting now.
There was a young man from Darjeeling who boarded a bus to Ealing. It sat on the door and spit on the floor, so he climbed up and spat on the ceiling.
So at the end of that round, they all spoke at different times.
It's so awful. Here we are in the British Library. And we're quoting limericks.
Yes. Popular verse.
Anyway, I'll let you know the situation at the end of that round. They've all got points, which is good at the end of the round. Paul's got 2, Giles has got 2, Ian's got 1, and Sheila's got 1. And Ian, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, the most ferocious animal on Earth. 60 seconds. Do you want to write it down, Sheila?
Yes.
The most...
I lose track because we go all over the place.
I know. Ian, 60 seconds starting now.
It seems to me that the most ferocious animal on Earth is actually the human being, because you think of things like sloths and they just lie about on the top of trees. Wasps buzz around. Cats sit there and lick their paws. Whereas the human species goes out and kills people, it shouts a lot, it tries to invent limericks. What kind of thing is that? That's a really fierce thing to do. I've been attacked by limerick writers recently.
Paul, you challenged.
Well, I was trying to challenge, but I think Ian actually said limerick and limericks. He did.
I said limerick writers with a hyphen too.
Yeah, so yes, I was going to say repetition, but it wasn't, I didn't
No, he did limericks and then limerick writers. Right. So, an incorrect challenge, Ian. You've still got the most ferocious animal on Earth, starting now.
And these ferocious versifiers rushed up to me and shouted, "We are the ferocious people, we are going to murder you. We are the..." Oh, God almighty. I'm sorry, it's just that a lot of my poetry is based on the repetition of the rhyme and the refrain, and it's really hard to get out of that mindset.
I know.
It's difficult.
I don't know why
I tend to speak in villanelles round the house.
I think it was very brave of you to volunteer to come on the show.
It was, actually.
But you do, of course.
Well, I'm speaking fast because I told my wife I was only going to the shop.
Give him a bonus point for that. The audience enjoyed it. But, Giles, you had a correct challenge, and you have 29 seconds. The most ferocious animal on Earth, starting now.
The most ferocious animal on Earth, Sherry Blair on eBay. The woman is insatiable.
Sheila Hancock challenge.
Well, she's hardly ferocious.
Oh! Have you tried bidding against her? Oh, my goodness.
Presumably you have.
That woman will get what she wants. Oh, my goodness gracious me.
Sheila, I'm inclined to agree with you. She's not ferocious.
Not in the least.
She's got a very sharp business brain. So there's correct challenge. And 22 seconds for you, Sheila. The most ferocious animal on Earth, starting now.
I actually do think it's the human animal, but my cat thinks it's him. He growls around the house looking for mice and birds and is a killer.
Giles challenge.
It's a curious house that has birds in it.
Yes. Well, they might be in a cage.
He's looking for them. They're not there.
No, you're right.
Yeah, he's looking for them. He's only a cat.
He doesn't find them.
Yeah,
He
you're
doesn't
right.
find them.
A lifetime of disappointment. Sheila Hancock's cat. Oh, dear.
Sheila, an incorrect challenge. You still have the subject, and there are...
Oh, Lord.
10 seconds.
Oh, dear.
You only got 10 seconds. The most ferocious animal on Earth, starting now.
I think he once saw a tiger.
Paul
The
challenge.
repetition of think. We had think before.
Oh, yes.
Right, good.
I think the most ferocious. So, Paul, you got in with 9 seconds ago on the most ferocious animal on Earth, starting now.
Apparently, it's the hippopotamus. They're real devils. If you ever get between one and its kin, you will find out just how ferocious they can be. Almighty more...
Right. So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and he's taken the lead. He's one ahead of the others, and they're all equally 1 point behind him. Which is... Oh, I love using words. And,
as long as they're not using you.
But it's the misuse of words in the British Library, which is a bit naughty, right? Giles, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, another apt subject for the British Library. Second-hand books. 60 seconds starting now.
I was visiting a second-hand bookshop on the Marylebone Road, not far from where I'd been brought up as a child, when I saw a volume of my own work. I was excited, purchased it, only a penny. I must say that was a little bit insulting. Got out into the street and thought, this is thrilling. Opened it up, and there I read the words, "Darling Mummy and Daddy, this is my first book, enjoy." Signed, Giles Brandreth. This was somewhat of a hurtful moment in my literary career. I would, of course, love to have second editions of my books, only the first ones ever seem to be published. It is heartbreaking when you are an author to find...
Ian challenge.
I think he repeated first, because he said first edition before, did he? Bought a first edition of the book from the shop. I think he said first, so he said first. Repetition.
I'm not quite sure I understand it, Sonny. Did you sell your own book to the...
No. What I did is I gave this book, my first book, to my parents, and they actually sold it to the local second-hand bookshop.
No, they donated it, surely.
They donated it. They donated it.
This book will raise a lot of money, they thought.
And it did. It raised a penny.
Is it true?
It's a true story.
Oh,
it's a true...
It is.
I think you'll find a similar thing happened to Charles Dickens.
Ian, correct challenge. 24 seconds. Second-hand books starting now.
I once signed a book of mine to a lady called Lyndon Armand, and I put all the best and her name. And then 3 years later, I found this book in a second-hand bookshop, but I knew where she lived. So I signed it again and put hello, how are you, posted it back to her.
Sheila, you challenged.
I did want to hear the end of the story, but it did say signed twice.
Yes, you did.
That's true. Well, she was deaf. I had to sign.
Sheila, another point to you. Correct challenge and 10 seconds available. Second-hand books starting now.
There is nothing more delightful than wandering round Foyles, which is probably the biggest second-hand bookshop in London, certainly, maybe.
Ian challenge.
There must be some things that are more delightful. I mean, I know it's very delightful, but there must be some things in your life.
No, she did say one of the most
Did she?
delightful. Yes.
No, I think I
She said
there's
nothing
more delightful.
Fine.
So she's entitled to say that. She's entitled to feel it.
Yeah.
And I get an extra point because he interrupted me.
That's right.
You don't get an extra point. You just get your natural point for being interrupted. So you keep the subject, and you have... Oh, you've only got 3 seconds. Keep going, darling. Second-hand books are starting now.
The smell of them is delightful.
Actually, Sheila, if I was playing the game, I have a challenge there, because the smell of a new book is wonderful. The smell of a second-hand book has been through so many different hands. It's really sordid.
Oh, no, it's lovely.
Is it?
Yeah.
You must have a strange sense of smell.
Yeah, it's very evocative.
If you go into the London Library, which is full of second-hand books, it's got the most amazing smell. Better than an iPhone or an iPad or whatever they're called.
Anyway, you were speaking... You were speaking as a whistle went, Sheila. You got an extra point for doing so, and you are in the lead now, ahead of Paul Merton and Giles Manders. It's a language predominates in this particular show this week. Paul, the subject is tongue twisters, and we'd like you to starting now.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper is something like that. Is one of those famous tongue twisters you learn at school. They are very difficult to enunciate completely properly because you must realise that the words are formed between your lips and your tongue vibrating against the back of the... What am I talking about? It's like old rubber. I can't believe people are listening to this.
Giles,
Can I buzz myself?
Self-inflicted hesitation.
I didn't hesitate.
Well, yes, no, you did, actually.
Oh, did I?
You stopped.
That's not hesitation, that's a stop. If I'd started up again, it would have been hesitation.
No. Yeah, and you know... You've played the game often enough, Paul. You know a stop is a hesitation in this show. Giles, it's your subject now. 39 seconds available. Tongue twisters starting now.
The first time I appeared as an actor on the radio, it was a wireless play about a murder. I essayed the role of a young detective, and my line was this: that was the chair Schmidt sat in when he was shot. Something of a tongue twister that went sadly awry, and therefore my broadcasting career came to an abrupt stop. I'm having a rapprochement with galoshes, and some would say this heralds middle age. Yes, sneering they would utter, does he also wear pince-nez? Old jossers wore these items when women's hats were cloches. Ha! Woolen combinations are this dodderer's next stage. Well, let the people snigger.
Sheila, why the challenge,
It's gone completely insane. We can't let it
It's
go
a tongue
on.
twister. It's a tongue twister. It drives you mad. That's the nature of the beast.
But it's tongue twister, isn't it? But it isn't just load of nonsense.
No.
Well, most
Well,
tongue
you
twisters
try
are.
saying it, darling.
Most
Say
tongue
again,
twisters
go
are.
on.
There's no nonsense.
He made it up.
Did you make it up? Go on, do it again.
No, I don't think I can do it again. I don't want to get my tongue in a twist. No,
No, it
because the
wasn't
drugs will
well-
soon wear off. I think let's move on.
I think you'll have to have the benefit of the doubt, Sheila, because he did make that up and he did twist his tongue on it, but it wasn't tongue twisters as we know them, right? Established verbal problems. So, Sheila, there are 5 seconds. You tell us something about tongue twisters starting now.
She sold seashells by the sea shore is something that I...
So Sheila Hancock was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point and has moved forward. She's 4 ahead of the other 3 who are equal in second place. And Sheila, it's your turn to begin, and the subject worries me a bit because what they've thought of is here, the chairman's weak spot. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether you've got any ideas. But talk on the subject, starting now.
Whatever I say is going to be a disaster. However, I will declare that you haven't got a weak spot, but maybe you could slightly improve the way you dress.
It's radio, Nick. Tell them why the audience are laughing.
I want you... I'm going to carry on.
No, you're not. I'm going to explain to our listeners, by the way, they're all looking horrified because, especially for you, Sheila, I put on one of my smartest velvet jackets.
No,
and this
you
beautiful...
listen to what I have to say.
I know, I will.
Let me go on.
All right, go on then. And you have 34 seconds starting now.
I think you are too conservative. You could be much dishier if you wore leather jackets and jeans, medallions and open shirts and maybe...
Paul Chandler.
In the name of God, no!
No! I do wear jeans an awful lot.
You don't wear leather jackets, though.
I've got a leather jacket as well.
Oh, yes.
But when I come out and face an audience, I dress up for my audience. I don't dress down.
You look lovely. It's just for the game, I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know, and you're wonderful in the game, and we all love you, darling. But so that's an incorrect challenge. I do wear jeans.
Oh, yeah. You've not been invited to those parties where he wears the leather jacket. So, it's a lot of fun.
So carry on, Sheila, with the chairman's weak spot starting now.
I like men to look déshabillés. That's not a word. I've just made that.
Paul Chandler.
It's the British Library. I'm making up words.
I can do no better than to quote Sheila's word. That's not a word.
You were very close.
Déshabillé.
It's
What is it?
déshabillé. It
That's
means
right.
It means that not very elegantly dressed.
Sort of nonchalant.
It's a French word meaning not very elegantly dressed.
No, it doesn't. It just means nonchalant and casual.
No. Déshabillé, yes.
It means undressed.
Yes.
Naked.
Yeah, absolutely. No. It does. No. When the leather jacket comes off, there he is.
Completely déshabillé. So, Paul, another incorrect challenge.
Oh, God. I can't go on with this. I can't.
You can surrender if
How
you want
long
to.
have I got?
You've got 20 seconds.
No, Lordy.
Right. So, right, the chairman's déshabillé spot. No, I mean... the chairman's weak spot is with you, Sheila. 20 seconds starting now.
Maybe putting your hair in a pigtail might add to the issue. However, I am not going to accept that you could be improved upon. You don't have any weak spots, Nick. To my mind, you are a gentleman through and through, but I would like to see you in a leather jacket.
Right. Paul Chandler.
Sadly, in the middle of that through and through, we had through and through.
Yes.
Repetition of through.
Yes.
Very sorry.
And to show you how generous I am, how fair I am...
You can rise above it.
No, I can rise above you. I'll give you a bonus point because you'll have a lovely reaction. There we are. There you are. But, so, Paul, you've got 4 seconds on the chairman's weak spot starting now.
Well, undoubtedly, Nicholas Parsons' weak spot is this. It's his ability... 4 seconds, did you say?
So Paul Merton was then speaking or attempting to speak when the whistle went. Gain that extra point. He's still in second place behind Sheila Hancock, but just ahead of Ian Macmillan and Giles Brandreth. Ian, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, we've got aspects of language throughout this show. It is all very exciting. I'm glad you feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, another subject is slang. Ian, I'm sure you don't use much slang in your verse, but you talk on the subject starting now.
See, what they do when they talk in slang is they talk like this. That's to repeat this all the time, because when they repeat it, it's not like slang, it does it round Barnsley. What I'm trying to say is that's to get the vowels right behind the consonants, and that makes a kind of slang, so to dance a kind of. That's what we call it. It's a kind of dance.
I think you repeated something.
No, I didn't. Because that's just one long word. All I said there was one long word. It's a Barnsley slang word for pigeon. That's all it is.
Give him a bonus point for trying to justify something so outrageous.
All this promotion of Barnsley, it's a great city.
It very rarely happens. So I thought I'd try it now.
I love
Parkinson does it as well, doesn't he?
Yes, from his Surrey home.
And after Scargill,
you are at
of
least
course.
based where you talk about, yes. Yeah, Sheila, you challenged.
Did I?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, a little bit of repetition.
I'm sorry.
A little
Just
bit. Right. So, Sheila, you've got another point. You have 44 seconds on slang starting now.
Well...
Well, there was a hesitation there.
It was.
Yeah, there was.
Yes. You mustn't give up so easily, my darling.
No,
You're very good at the game. Right. 42 seconds, Paul. Slang starting now.
There's different forms of slang. There's back slang, where somebody could say something along the lines of, cool your scallops. And if you're scallops, no, that's not right.
Ian challenge.
He repeated his scallops.
Yeah, I
You
did.
did repeat scallops?
Yeah.
Well, listen, Ian. Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
You have 34 seconds. Tell us more about slang starting now.
They used to call slang They used to call slang, I can't say the word, sloppy speech.
Paul challenge.
I was going to say
Repetition of they
sloppy
used to
speech.
call.
Yes, you can't.
No, I couldn't say the word sloppy speech. That's kind of postmodernism, isn't it? When I couldn't say the thing I
Doesn't
couldn't
matter
say.
whether it's postmodernism or not, Ian.
No.
You repeated something.
I did,
And
but
this
in a
is just
postmodernist way.
minute. Paul, 30 seconds on slang starting now.
There's gay slang, as was played very successfully in Round the Horn, where people would refer to various parts of the body as lallies. Polari, I believe, is it's actually a very old language. You can go back to sort of like late 18th century and you will find various words in that slang that do crop up today even still. I believe that the two writers of that magnificent show, Marty Feldman and Barry Took, although not from personal experience, did know a few cabaret artists round about that time in London in the 1960s.
So, well done, Paul. Speaking as whistle went, going that extra point. And before I give you the situation, I just have to say this is going to be the last round. Well, the situation is, and we move in the final round, Giles Brandreth is in fourth place, surprisingly, because he often does...
Anyone got a mop?
He's often nearer the lead, but, you know, it's an unpredictable game. Ian McMillan is in third place, and Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, only 1 point separates the two of them. Ooh. And Giles, I think it's about time you started.
Yes.
So...
Yes.
Can you bring a bucket with the mop as well?
And Giles is making the most extraordinary noises. I should explain to our listeners, there's nothing wrong with his insides or his bowels. It's just that he's trying to gain attention. And,
It's show business.
How I prepare for Christmas. Tell us something about that subject, Giles, in this game starting now.
How I prepare for Christmas reluctantly. I loathe the festive season, particularly the game of Monopoly that takes place after luncheon, because it is a family breaker. The children want to win, and they turn upon their parents in a despicable way. The other part of it that I completely loathe is the food. We gather around the microwave, pop it open, and insert the Marks and Spencer's turkey breast with the 4 little sprouts on the side. Some gravy is already congealed. 35 seconds later, ping, and it's in front of us. We consume it, pull a couple of crackers, turn on the television, and there is the Queen, the same one who's been there for nearly 60 years. The novelty has worn off. What we are looking for is a kind of Yuletide celebration where there are logs that are not made of chocolate, but of wood, stern snow, berries under which one can kiss, mistletoe that gives you the sensation that...
Oh, Giles, that was a magnificent tour de force. But don't ask me to your home for Christmas. I can't think of anything more miserable in this festive season.
Terrible old Scrooge.
Real Scrooge, isn't it? Yes. Real Scrooge, honestly. Miserable. But within the rules of just a minute, it was magnificent.
Yes.
Keep going, without hesitation, repetition, and deviation, and you've got a point for speaking as the whistle went, and get another point for not being interrupted, and you finished in third place alongside Ian. So you've redeemed your position, and the other two haven't moved because nobody else spoke in that round. But Paul is just 1 point behind Sheila Hancock. So we say Sheila...
I redeemed myself.
No, darling, you redeem it every time you come in. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Giles Brandreth, Sheila Hancock and Ian McMillan. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown our whistles beautifully when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, which we love playing, and we have such fun. And we hope that fun has been not only reached past to the audience here, but we hope some of it's passed to you. And we hope it'll cheer you up at Christmas. So from this lovely audience here in the British Library, the theatre of the British Library, and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our team, goodbye. Thank you very much for tuning in, and be with us the next time we play Just a Minute!